Hey guys, how are you all? Today we are back with another blazing Naruto what if. What if Naruto get banished and build his own village with only girl who loved him? If you enjoy this video then please like, share and do comment. And also check the description to original creator of this beautiful creation. So let us start the story.
Hidden Leaf Village. Tsunade was not having a good day. Sasuke Uchiha had betrayed the leaf and ran away yesterday. She had thought that it would not be hard to bring him back and only sent a small team of Shikamaru, Naruto, Choji, Kiba, and Neji. With the new Chunin Shikamaru in charge. Not too long ago she had learned that the mission had gone to hell with most of the team heavily injured. The only exceptions were Shikamaru, who only in a broken finger, and Naruto, but that was because he was still unaccounted for. To top it all off, Lee had run off after them but somehow escaped any major injuries. This was most likely due to the fact that Gaara had shown up in time to save him. She sighed and thought about her next move. The Sand siblings had come just in time to rescue and save 3 of the Retrieval team and had also picked up Choji on the way back to the Leaf. She had gotten reports that Neji and Choji should be able to live, but it would not be out of the hospital for at least a month. Lee informed her that he had linked up with Naruto and that he had continued on after Sasuke in the direction of the land of rice paddies. At that moment Kakashi barged into her office and demanded to know what was happening. After informing Kakashi of the situation, Kakashi was about to leave when Tsunade stopped him. "I want you to go and track Naruto and Sasuke down and bring them back." Kakashi nodded and said, "Don't worry, I was going to do that whether you told me to or not." Kakashi walked out of her office with a determined look on his face. Kakashi went to the northern gate and summoned his 8 ninja hounds. Pakun, who was standing on the tallest of the ninja hounds, said, "What do you need, Kakashi?" Kakashi replied, "I need you guys to find Naruto and Sasuke as fast as possible before they kill each other." They were heading in the direction of the land of rice paddies, so concentrate in that area. With the sense of Team 7 already memorized, the hounds set off to find them. Kakashi started to evaluate the situation. It was late in the afternoon and it looked like it would start raining tomorrow midday. If he didn't find those 2 soon, it would be very hard to find them. After coming to this conclusion, he started to head off in the direction of the land of rice paddies. Land of Fire. Pakun had found the trail of Naruto and Sasuke, and with a howl he informed Kakashi, who was soon there. Kakashi, without looking down at Pakun, asked, "What have you found?" "I found the trail, but I also smell that a battle is about to start, most likely from the 2 we are tracking," Pakun replied. Kakashi's face got more determined than it ever had and said, "Then we need to pick up the pace and maybe we can get to them in time." Valley of the End. The evidence of there being a battle and was now finished was everywhere. The demonic chakra was dispersing, there were burn marks and craters, and there was only one person. That person was a young boy with sun-blonde hair and orange clothing. He was Naruto Uzumaki. Kakashi ran up to the unconscious boy and looked around for any sign of his other student. He looked down and asked Pakun, "Can you still track Sasuke's scent?" Pakun replied, "No, it's been raining for more than an hour, his scent is gone." Kakashi sighed and picked up Naruto piggyback style and then told Pakun he could go. With a pop of smoke, Pakun was gone and Kakashi was heading back to the Leaf. Land of Fire. Kakashi was tree hopping when 4 medical ninja from the Leaf appeared. The lead one said, "Good, you found Naruto." While tree hopping but at a slower pace, he did a medical evaluation on Naruto. He then said, "He has some major injuries but he will be fine. The best course of action will be to get him back to the Leaf Hospital as fast as possible." Another medical ninja asked, "Is Sasuke dead or did he get away?" Kakashi replied, "He got away and I could no longer track him." With that, all 5 ninja increased their pace back to the Leaf. Hokage's office. Tsunade just realized that things were going to go from bad to worse. She looked down at what was on her desk. It was a newspaper with the winning lottery numbers. For the 3rd straight day she had won the lottery, and not just win but top prize. She knew this was bad. Kakashi had not returned with Naruto. She was about to go see if she could find any answers when Shizune burst in. She said, "Kakashi has returned with Naruto and is currently in the hospital. His injuries are major but he should be fine and make a full recovery soon." Tsunade, who was half standing when Shizune came in, sat back down and let out a sigh of relief. Her pseudo-grandson was fine knowing his healing powers he would be okay in a few days. She would never admit especially to Naruto it, but she loved how he called her granny. He had turned her life around and was now in a better direction. She got up and went to the hospital to see Naruto and talk to Kakashi to get a report of what happened. Leaf Hospital. After getting Naruto's room number she went straight to see him. When she got there she sat next to his bed. He was still asleep from all that he had gone through. After a couple of minutes Kakashi walked in with none other than the Toad Sage himself, Jiraiya. Tsunade looked up and asked Kakashi to report on what happened. Kakashi said, I tracked Naruto and Sasuke to the Valley of the End where they had a heavy battle. I was unable to get there in time to stop it or intervene. I found Naruto unconscious on the ground. Because of the rain I could not track Sasuke any further and so I returned. Tsunade sighed. She knew this would be trouble. The council would not like that their precious Uchiha was gone. But at least her grandson figure was here and safe. After that Kakashi left and headed home. Jiraiya stayed to talk to Tsunade. He asked, so how do you think the council will take the full loss of the Uchiha clan? Tsunade responded, they won't be happy but there is not much that can be done about it now. Jiraiya replied, well you are probably right anyway. I was thinking it would be a good idea to take Naruto on a training trip. My information indicates that the Akatsuki will start to make their move in 3 years and we need to make a real shinobi out of him by the time they start. Tsunade nodded in agreement and said, I'll miss the brat while he is gone but that sounds like a good idea. They both sat there as silence while Tsunade brushed Naruto's hair with her hand and Jiraiya watched his precious student sleep while he planned out their training trip. The one thing he knew he had to do was tell Naruto about his parents. The only thing was when and how. While he was thinking on this, Koharu Utatane and Homura Mitokado, 2 of the 3 elder advisors to the Hokage, came in and Koharu said, the council has been called and would like a report of the Sasuke retrieval mission. Tsunade sighed knowing this would happen sooner or later and said, I'll be there shortly. She got up and quickly went and got some sake for later because she knew this would cause a headache to deal with the council. Leaf Council Chambers. All the heads of the major clans were present as well as the 3 elder advisors Koharu Utatane, Homura Mitokado, and Danzo Shimura. When Tsunade walked in, Tsunade sat in her chair and said, I already know why this meeting has been called. I'll just start by giving the combined reports on the Sasuke retrieval mission. After saying that she went in and told the counselors everything including how Naruto used some of the 9 tails chakra in his fight with Sasuke. After that she asked if there are any questions. One of the clan heads she didn't like because he was greedy and arrogant asked, what are we going to do with the 9 tails brat? He is obvious a danger to us all. He should be banished or killed before he hurts anyone else. Tsunade was stunned that someone would say something like that, and responded very angrily, we are not going to banish or kill anyone. He did not hurt any leaf ninja on that mission. Sasuke is a traitor and a missing ninja now, and while Naruto fought him, so we have no grounds to banish him on. He will be going on a training trip with Jiraiya soon. Koharu said, he is right Tsunade-sama, his could pose a danger to us. We have to consider banishment and there is no way he could go on a training trip with Jiraiya with the full loss of the Uchiha clan. Our enemies might think we are weak and we need Jiraiya to stay in the village in case someone attacks, and he cannot maintain his spy network and train the 9 tails brat at the same time. Faster than Tsunade ever thought the council was capable of working, they voted and decided that Naruto had to be banished. After this happened she said, has Hokage I veto the measure to banish Naruto Uzumaki. After she said that, Homura then responded by saying, that is true, you may be able to veto this but the daimyo can overrule you, so we shall present this to him and see what he says. After this Tsunade dismissed the council meeting in a rage and went to her office. Hokage's office. Tsunade stormed in and immediately ordered one of the hidden Anbu to go get Jiraiya. 10 minutes later Jiraiya came in through a window and asked, what is this about Tsunade? Did something happen at the council meeting? After he saw how mad she was. She was about to respond when we started crying. Her latched onto Jiraiya and said through her tears, they are trying to banish Naruto. Jiraiya was shocked and asked for more details. Tsunade then explained what the situation was and what happened at the meeting. Jiraiya wrapped his arms around her then said, well shit, the daimyo never liked Naruto and given the chance will most likely banish him. Tsunade, still crying but a bit less, asked, what are we going to do? Jiraiya then responded, I will leave before they can trap me here, and I will wait not far from here. When he is banished, I will find him and take him on that trip. It just might be a bit longer than I was planning." Tsunade now not crying, knowing that her grandson figure would have a plan, and not a bad one at that. She nodded and got out of the hug and sat back at her desk. Jiraiya then said, "Well, if there is nothing more we need to do, then I will be leaving. It's best if you don't try and contact me to make sure that someone doesn't throw a wrench in this plan." Tsunade agreed and Jiraiya left. Tsunade then thought, Naruto is friends with 5 clan heirs and the son of the head of a clan. I think they will fight to have his banishment removed. After that she pulled out a bottle of sake and started drinking. Daimyo's palace. Later that night Danzo, Kaharu, and Homura came to the arrived at the Daimyo's palace and to have a meeting about the banishment of Naruto. Danzo said to the Daimyo, "I am sorry to inform you that Sasuke Uchiha has left the Leaf Village." The Daimyo responded, "That is a shame to have lost such a powerful clan." Danzo continued, "The person responsible for his defection was Naruto Uzumaki. That troublemaker has really done. It is time. What is Tsunade going to do about this?" The Daimyo asked. Danzo answered, "She plans on doing nothing. The council has voted to have him banished, but she vetoed it. However, you as Daimyo have the authority to overturn her veto if it pertains to a banishment." "Okay, then I will sign the necessary papers to have him banished. By the day after tomorrow he will no longer be allowed in the Leaf, and 1 week from then he will no longer be allowed in the Land of Fire. In accordance with the Land of Fire and the Leaf Village's policy on banishment." The Daimyo stated. Hokage's office. Tsunade got to her office at the usual time 10 a.m. and when she sat down at her desk, and the first thing she saw was that the Daimyo had authorized the banishment of Naruto. However, expected this made her sad. In accordance with the laws of the Land of Fire and the Leaf, he would have to leave the day after he was discharged from the hospital at noon. Tsunade sighed and pulled her sake out and thought to herself, "I am going to need a lot of this if I am going to get through this ordeal." Leaf Hospital. Naruto was starting to stir. A normal person would have been out for several days after doing what Naruto had done, but because of the healing power of the 9 tails he was already starting to get better. One of the nurses noticed that he was starting to wake up and called Shizune over. Shizune came and went into the room just as Naruto was waking. She then asked, "How are you feeling?" He then said, "My body feels fine, but I failed to bring Sasuke back." Shizune patted him on the head and said, "It's okay, I am glad that you are here and safe. You will likely be discharged from the hospital tomorrow, and after that I know Tsunade will want to see you." Naruto said, "Okay, then I'll go and see Granny tomorrow." It almost killed Shizune because she knew what Tsunade had to talk to him about, but it was better if they told him after he was out of the hospital. Shizune said, "You should get some rest, it will make you feel better." Shizune walked out to go tell Tsunade the situation with Naruto. She then though about what had happened and what will soon happen. News that Naruto was to be banished was not common knowledge yet, as it could not be announced until Naruto was out of the hospital. Hokage's office. It may have only been noon, but Tsunade was drunk and sad that her favorite brat was being banished and there was nothing she could do about it. Shizune walked in. Normally she would scold Tsunade for drinking, but this time Shizune wanted nothing more than to join Tsunade and have a few drinks. She then said, "Tsunade-sama, Naruto woke up about an hour ago and he should be ready to be discharged from the hospital later today or tomorrow." Tsunade then said, "No matter what, don't discharge him till tomorrow so he can have as much time as possible to leave." Shizune nodded and walked out. Leaf Hospital. Naruto was feeling a bit better but not much when the Sand siblings and Shikamaru came to say hi and see how he was doing. The best part of their visit for them was that they brought ramen. Gaara was happy to see his first and best friend and actually smiled a little bit as he watched how Naruto ate his ramen. But they could not stay and had to leave later that day as they were needed in the sand. Not long after they left, Sakura came in and this made Naruto feel horrible, as he had not been able to keep his promise to Sakura. She came in and shouted, How could you break your promise to me?" He then tried to say that he had not given up on bringing Sasuke back, but after the first word she interrupted him and said, "I don't care what you have to say, you broke your promise and now Sasuke is gone. I don't ever want to see or talk to you again." Before Naruto could say anything, Sakura stormed out. Naruto curled up in a ball similar to the many times he had as a child when he was mistreated by villagers and cried himself to sleep. The next day Shizune came in and did a checkup on Naruto. Naruto didn't say much as she did the checkup and after told him that he was free to go. She then said, Tsunade-sama would like to see you in her office now that you are discharged, so how about I take you there now? Naruto simply nodded and was feeling sad ever since his interaction with Sakura. Hokage's office. Unlike yesterday, Tsunade was not drunk as she did not want to be drunk for what she had to do. Shizune walked in with a sad-looking Naruto. Tsunade was now rethinking the whole not being drunk thing. She took a deep breath and said, "The Council of the Leaf Village has come to the decision that you are to be banished from the Leaf. You will have to leave at noon tomorrow and you will not be allowed to return to the Leaf Village. Then after 1 week you will have to leave the Land of Fire and will not be allowed to return." In the most un-Naruto emotionless voice possible, Naruto said, "Is that everything, Tsunade-sama? If so, then I would like to go get packed." Tsunade and Shizune could have died after hearing that. Shizune because that was not the way her little brother figure should sound like, and Tsunade for the same reason, and how he didn't call her granny. Tsunade didn't respond, she didn't know how. After a little bit Naruto figured that there was nothing more and turned around and left. After the door closed, Tsunade pulled out a bottle of sake and drained it in no time at all. She started to cry and pulled out another one, but this time poured a glass. Shizune reached for the bottle. Tsunade, thinking she was going to take it away, was about to try and stop her, but then Shizune also grabbed a cup and poured herself a glass and started to drink. They were like that for over an hour, neither caring what people would think about them drinking in the middle of the day. The sunshine of their life seemed extinguished and gone forever. Naruto's apartment. Naruto walked in and pulled out some of the sealing scrolls the Arrow Sennin had gotten for him on their trip to go get Tsunade. He was about to start to pack up his stuff when a tear formed. He dropped the scrolls on the ground and they rolled away. He fell to the ground and started to cry. He cried for what felt like hours, maybe days. He eventually fell asleep on the floor of his apartment. Here he would stay till someone came and woke him up. Naruto looked up to a cloaked figure and all he could see were his eyes, which were a light shade of green. The rest of his face was completely black. Naruto was scared at first, thinking that the cloaked figure was going to hurt him. So he quickly backed up. The figure then pulled his hood back to reveal a man in his early 30s, late 20s with goatee that connected with the rest of his hair, with short black hair tied in a short ponytail behind his head. He said, "Don't worry, I am not here to hurt you, Naruto." Naruto then asked, "How do you know my name and who are you?" The cloaked man then answered, "Who I am is not important at the moment. There is only about 12 hours till you have to leave and there is still much that needs to happen before that. As how I know your name, I will tell you this: there are very few secrets that I do not know. Like who your parents were." Naruto was stunned and then asked, "You know who my parents were? Can you tell me? Maybe there is some family out there that I could meet? Or I don't know, just something for me to do since I am no longer a leaf shinobi." The cloaked man nodded. "I'll start with your mother. She was a beautiful redhead by the name of Ashina Uzumaki. Her nickname she got when she was young in the leaf was the Red Hot Habanero. She got this for her very red hair, a common thing in the Uzumaki clan, and her fiery temper." Naruto then asked, "So I have a clan?" The man with the goatee nodded and continued. The Uzumaki clan was known for two things: one, the mastery of sealing jutsu, and second, the incredibly powerful chakra that gave them unusually long lives. Your mother had very powerful chakra even compared to the rest of the Uzumaki clan, and so she was chosen to be second Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. Naruto then blurted out, "Wait, second Jinchuriki, so there was one before me?" The man nodded and said, "Yes, and you are the third. The first being Mito Uzumaki, the wife of the first Hokage. Meaning that you are a third-generation Jinchuriki of the Uzumaki clan. Descendants of the Uzumaki clan are some of the few people who can keep the nine tails at bay." Naruto then gave a confused face and asked, "If the nine tails was inside my mom, then how did it attack the Leaf Village?" The man then said, "Your birth and the nine tails attack was not a coincidence. A Jinchuriki's seal is its weakest while giving birth, so if not properly monitored it will burst and the tailed beast will get out. Which leads to an interesting question, as your father was there monitoring the seal. I believe that someone interrupted him from repairing the seal so that the nine tails would be released and had it attack the hidden leaf." After a short pause the man gave, in case Naruto had any questions he continued. "Before we continue, I will tell you who your father was. He was a man by the name of Minato Namikaze, the fourth Hokage. Naruto looked like he was about to say something, but he was interrupted. Before you say anything like, why, or, how could he make his own son a Jinchuriki, don't worry, I will answer those questions, so just listen. Naruto nodded. The man continued. There were several reasons he chose you. As you know, the 9 tails has to be sealed, it cannot be destroyed. Also, as I said early, Uzumaki clan members are the only choice, anyone else and they would have been killed by the chakra by the time they turned 5. As well, since you were in your mother for 10 months, you had gained some immunity to the fox's chakra, making you without a doubt the perfect next vessel of the 9 tails. Naruto looked sad but nodded understandingly. The cloaked man continued. Your father was also a noble man. He could not in good conscience ask someone else to sacrifice their child so his could go unburdened. If he were alive, he would be very sad about how your life has gone so far and would understand if you never forgave him for what he did to you. Naruto then said, I don't like the decision he made, but if everything you said was true, then I guess I understand. I would have likely done the same in his situation. The cloaked man nodded and said, well, now that you know of your parents, it's time for you to collect your inheritance. Naruto looked confused and said in a questioning voice, inheritance? The man nodded. Your father was the Hokage. He had quite an impressive library and weapons collection as well as a pretty fat bank account. He said in a sly way. He continued, your father locked all of his stuff away with blood seals that at this point only you can activate. Their house still stands, so we should head over there and get everything. Naruto nodded and stood up. Namikaze Estate. Naruto and the cloaked man sneaked through the village to the Namikaze Estate. The man said, what's here is ours, so I will leave you to take what you want, and just remember to close the door. It would be best if people didn't find out you did this. Also, I recommend leaving tonight while people are still in bed as to avoid questions. Well, this is goodbye for now. I don't know when I will next see you, but good luck on whatever you do. Naruto then said, thanks, and shook the man's hand. The cloaked man put his hood back on and disappeared into the night. Naruto then looked back at the house. It was not a big house, but it was above average and a bit out of the way for privacy. He walked up and put some blood on the seal on the door and it opened. Naruto walked in and looked around for a bit. It was a nice house, a bit dated and dusty, but that was expected. After a quick look around, Naruto found the equipment room and library. Naruto made some shadow clones who all grabbed some sealing scrolls and started to get everything they could. The weapons room, the smaller of the two, mostly had extra ninja supplies, not lots, as his parents could go into town and stock up whenever they wanted, unlike he could. So he just got everything. It wasn't much, but since he didn't know when next he could resupply, he got everything. The only special stuff was sealing supplies and a few nice swords. The library was a large, it could even rival some of the major clans' libraries. Everything from E-rank basic to even a few S-rank jutsu. Naruto just grabbed everything. There were lots of extra sealing scrolls that his parents kept that he took. While his clones were hard at work storing everything, he went to explore the upstairs part of the house. He looked and found an office. He looked and found some official-looking scrolls and took them. One was title, in case of death, on it, and Naruto decided to look at that later. He moved on to the bedrooms. One looked like the master and another looked like it was set up for a baby. Seeing what it looked like, Naruto realized what his parents did love him, and that made him very happy. He shed some tears knowing that his parents were good people and they died before their time. Naruto found some family pictures and took them. When suddenly he knew that the scrolls were all sealed, and that were all then sealed a second time because there were so many, and all put in his backpack. When Naruto thought about this, it was interesting. He now realized that he got all the memories when his clones dispelled. That was something he had to look into in the future. One memory stood out. One of the clones noticed a blood seal at the back of the library. Naruto gathered up the stuff he got from upstairs, grabbed one of the last sealing scrolls and dumped all the stuff he got into it. He grabbed his almost full backpack and went to investigate the blood seal. He went to it and activated the seal. Then suddenly a door opened out of nowhere. Naruto looked in. It was a short set of stairs to a basement. Naruto went down and found 2 more scrolls, one a storage scroll, the other a jutsu scroll. Naruto took both and put them in his backpack and left. Naruto checked the time. It was 4 a.m. Naruto noted that some of the early riser of the ninja population would be getting up soon and decided that it was time to split. As he left silently, thanking that he could make shadow clone because without them it would have taken almost a day to get everything done. He made his way toward the walls. Most fortification only work one way, and that's to stop people from getting in, not getting out. So Naruto found it fairly easy to slip out of the village. He quickly made his way out of the village. Now it was time for the all-important decision. Where to next? Outside the Hidden Leaf village. I just got past the last patrol area the leaf operates. It is about 5:30 a.m. and the sun will be coming up soon. It will be a few hours before anyone knows I am gone, well, that is if they cared to even find out. Naruto thought to himself. The first thing I need to do is go through some of the stuff I got from my parents' house. I'll head to the Land of Waves and go say hi to the old man and his family. They would probably let me stay for a few days while I get everything organized. Naruto continued to think. I should also break the Toad contract. Now that I am no longer a leaf ninja, it would likely be best if I gave it up. With that thought, Naruto stopped his journey for a bit and pulled out a blank scroll, and remembering what he needed to do, he made the seal and activated it, ending the contract with the Toads. With that done, he continued moving towards the Land of Waves. A town far away but not too far. It was about 8 a.m. in a small village not far from the Hidden Leaf. In this town, was man revered or hated depending on who you were, the world's greatest super pervert. He was currently staying in a tavern in this village. All of a sudden, next to that tavern there was a giant puff of smoke, and once it cleared, it revealed a large toad, and not just large, it was half the size of this village it was standing next to. It then shouted, "Jiraiya, where are you? We need to talk." Then one of the windows in the tavern opened and came out Jiraiya, surprisingly without a hangover like he usually did, as he was expecting to have to do things today, and having a hangover would not be good for those things. Jiraiya then said, "What is it, Gamabunta? There are very important things I need to do today." Gamabunta, the chief of the Toad summoning clan, then said, "Well, too bad, this is more important than whatever peeping you need to do. The first thing you need to do is explain why the little brat you were having follow you broke his contract with us." Jiraiya's eyes widened when he heard what Gamabunta said. He then replied, "What do you mean he broke the contract? I have no idea how that happened." Gamabunta then looked surprised. He could tell that Jiraiya was not lying. Then Gamabunta started to talk. "Well, you better figure it out. I liked him a lot more than I like you. So go find him, and I want a good explanation and for him to re-sign the contract." Jiraiya looked surprised. Most of the time when someone lost their contract, they lost it and never got it back. For the chief of a summon clan to demanding someone to re-sign was almost unheard of. He then said, "I was planning on meeting him today, so I'll get on that right away. I'll talk to you within a week." Gamabunta nodded and said, "You better." With that done, Jiraiya headed for the Hidden Leaf as fast as he could, while thinking, what in the hell happened for the contract to be broken? He couldn't have been killed, could he? Or did he think he should break it because he was being banished? Well, whatever the answer, I better get to the leaf and fast. Hokage's office. It was early in the morning, and the Konoha 10 and their senseis plus Iruka were all gathered in the Hokage's office, where Tsunade was explaining to them what had happened with Naruto and that now he was banished. None of them could understand why something like this was happening. Even Sakura was mad at him, but she would never want this to happen to him. Tsunade then said, "At this point there is nothing we can do to keep him here for now. But several of you are clan heirs, and I ask you, when you come to power in your clan, you do what you need to undo his banishment." The 5 who were the heir to their clans nodded. Tsunade was happy with this response. She then continued, "He still has till noon before he leaves, and I would like all of you to go say goodbye to him." They all nodded and headed out. Naruto's apartment. Jiraiya just got back to the Leaf Village, and the first thing he did was go to Naruto's apartment, hoping that he was there. When he got there, he found the door locked, but to the Toad Sage a locked door was nothing. He quickly unlocked the door and went in and saw that there was not much left. Thinking, he must have already packed and left his apartment and is hanging out with his friends one last time. With that thought, he left in search of Naruto's friends. It didn't take long. As soon as he left the apartment building, he found all of them. Kakashi waved lazily and said, "You here to say goodbye to Naruto as well?" Jiraiya responded, "I would, but he is not here. I thought he would be with you guys and was about to search for you, but then he must be somewhere else." Neji then said, "He is likely at that ramen stand. He likes getting a few last bowls before he leaves." Jiraiya nodded in agreement, and then they all headed to Ichiraku Ramen. Ichiraku Ramen stand. When they got there, they found it empty, so Iruka went up and asked, "Have you or Yame seen Naruto?" Tucci replied, No, I thought he would come here early today seeing what's happened to him. Iruka responded. Yeah, I thought the same, so we came here to say goodbye. Tucci then said, when you find him make sure that he comes here and tell him the ramen is on the house today. After that they all split up to see if they could find Naruto. Sakura was very desperate to see him and apologize for what she had said to him yesterday and hopeful he would forgive her. Hokage's office. Jiraiya came in through the window, which surprised Tsunade. She asked, why are you here? I thought you would be waiting in a nearby town to find Naruto when he left the Leaf Village. Jiraiya then said, I was until Gamabunta showed up to tell me that Naruto's contract with the Toads had ended. Would you know anything about this? Tsunade was shocked and replied, no, the village cannot make someone remove their summoning contract even if they are banished. Jiraiya sighed and said, well then there are only two possibilities: one, he somehow broke it, which would be possible for him, or two, he could have been killed. Tsunade's face went a bit pale at the mention of him being killed. I just spoke with his friends, maybe he is with them, she replied. Jiraiya then said, I saw them when I went to go check his apartment and the ramen bar he likes, and no one has seen him. Currently his friends are looking all over the village to see if they can find him. Naruto's friends searched the entire village, but at 2 p.m. they had to give up. After the search was over, Jiraiya went to see Tsunade. Hokage's office. Jiraiya came in through the window as usual. Tsunade was very drunk. After noon passed, she gave up hope of seeing her sunshine one last time. Jiraiya didn't even bother to sit down, he just said, he must have left the village last night at some point. I am going to go and find him to see if he is willing to train with me. Tsunade drunkenly nodded, and with that the super pervert was off to find his apprentice. Southwestern area of the Land of Fire. Naruto had just come to a small town and decided that it would be good to stop here and get some food as he had not eaten in some time. He quickly found a ramen bar in the town, and 10 bowls later, he was off and moving. He thought to himself, I should be able to get to the Land of Waves by tomorrow. After I get all my scrolls and belongings in order, I should start training. The Akatsuki is after me and I need to be ready. He continued to think about what his training regimen would look like. Land of Waves. Naruto was staring at something he had not expected. It was a sign that said, the Great Naruto Bridge. Naruto laughed a little bit and began to cross. Once he was on the other side, he went straight to Tazuna's house to see if he could stay there for a few days to sort some stuff out. Once at the house, he walked up to the door and knocked. He noticed that things seemed to be getting better. All the buildings seemed to be a lot less run down and the people happier. The door opened and it was Tsunami who opened it. She said as a surprised tone, Naruto, what are you doing here? Not that it isn't nice to see you. Naruto smiled sadly and asked, can I come in? It's a long explanation? Tsunami nodded and let Naruto in and lead him to the kitchen, where Naruto explained everything that had happened over the last week, but he left out the stuff about his parents. And once he was done, he asked, I have got a lot of scrolls and stuff before I left, and I was wondering if I could stay for a few days to sort through it. Tsunami leaned over and gave Naruto a hug and said, you can stay as long as you need. Tazuna and Inari won't be home for a month, so make sure that you come back in the future and say hi. Inari will be sad he missed you. Naruto headed up to the room he would be staying in and started to sort out all the scrolls and see what he had to work with. Week later with Jiraiya. It had been a week since Naruto had disappeared, and the only good news was that they were pretty sure that Naruto was not killed in the village, as they would have found his body by now. This meant that he had left that night for some reason. Jiraiya sighed. It had been a week and nothing had come up, so it was time to talk to Gamabunta. So Jiraiya summoned him. He was not looking forward to this conversation. In a puff of smoke, Gamabunta appeared and said, Jiraiya, did you find Naruto? Jiraiya looked sheepish and said, sorry, but I haven't found him. Gamabunta sighed and said, well, if you do ever find that brat, I would like to talk to him to pound him into dust for breaking that contract. Jiraiya laughed and said, I have not given up on finding, so I promise when I do I'll tell you. With that, Gamabunta left. With Asuma and Kurenai. Asuma and Kurenai were walking down a street in the Leaf to their favorite restaurant to have a date. It was their favorite not because it was particularly good, but none of their friends or students would disturb them there. Because nothing kills the mood like a guy wearing green spandex yelling about the springtime of youth, who was in his 30s. Kurenai looked at Asuma, who had been more quiet than usual, and asked, what are you thinking about? Asuma sighed and said, Naruto. My old man always wanted me to try and look after him a bit when he was younger and I never did. I am just thinking that after I got to know him a bit better after he graduated I am regretting doing nothing. You know that probably wouldn't have changed much. At this point we all wish we had done something. Kurenai said. Yeah, but it doesn't change that I should have done something. Asuma replied. At this point they reached their restaurant and walked in and sat down. With Ino and Sakura. It's okay, we'll figure out how to fix this. Ino said to a crying Sakura. Sakura had been crying almost non-stop since Naruto was banished because of what she had said to Naruto in the hospital. How? I told him that I hate him and that I never wanted to see him or talk to him again. That was the last time I ever saw him. Sakura continued to cry as Ino rubbed her back reassuringly. With Hinata. After the first few days after Naruto left, Hinata was in a haze and didn't know what she was going to do. It had been a week since Naruto had been banished and Hinata was starting to think about what Tsunade had told them. If you want to bring Naruto back, then come to power in your clan and make it so he can come back. After thinking on this for a bit, Hinata got up to go see her father to ask for more training. When she got to her father's office in the Hyuga compound, she knocked on the door. Come in, her father called out from his office. Hinata came in and sat down across from her father and said, I think it is time for me to take my responsibilities as clan heir more seriously. Giving her father a serious and determined face. Hiyashi Hyuga looked at his daughter and thought, I wonder if this has to do with that Uzumaki brat. She did have a crush on him for a very long time. Well, either way, as long as she is willing to take her responsibilities once she is head of the clan and knows the truth about that boy, she will give up on him. Hiyashi then said, Good, it is about time. We will start your training tomorrow at 6:30 a.m. in the main sparring ground. Don't be late. Hinata gave a determined nod and left her father's office. With Shikamaru and Choji were laying back on a hill watching clouds pass by. Shikamaru couldn't get Naruto out of his head. Everything about Naruto didn't make any sense, from how people treated him to how he grew up by himself. There is something the adults aren't telling us, and it is the key to figuring out Naruto. I have seen him treated badly, and it can't be the pranks as I remember it happening before he started pranking. Also, if it was the pranks, the stuff people did to him would be extreme for just putting some paint on stores. As Shikamaru was thinking, Choji was sitting next to him munching away on chips. He knew that Shikamaru was thinking about Naruto. He had some of the same questions about Naruto, but he knew it would be best to let Shikamaru figure it out and tell him. With Neji and Tenten were sitting on a park bench together. After Neji had lost to Naruto in the Chunin exams, he had become, to put it bluntly, less of a pretentious asshole. Because of this, Tenten had started to become closer to Neji. They had started to spend more time together outside of training and missions. Tenten looked to Neji, who was deep in thought, and asked, You're thinking about Naruto, aren't you? Neji simply nodded. Are you mad at him now that he can't keep his promise and free the Branch family? Neji shook his head and said, No, and for some reason I feel that he still will keep his promise, but I have no idea how. Tenten smiled and leaned into Neji and laid her head on his shoulder. With Kakashi and Guy, you know you have been here for 3 days straight. It's quite unyouthful. Kakashi continued to stare at the memorial stone and said nothing. With Kiba and Shino had just finished a training session and were sitting under a tree. Kiba then said, Man, I have no idea how I can help get Naruto back. At least you are the heir to a clan. Shino then replied, While this is true that I will likely be a clan head and your sister will be head of your clan, if you can convince her to allow Naruto back, that is just as good. Kiba nodded and said, You're right, Shino. It might be a bit harder, but if I can do that, that will help a lot. With Lee, to get over the loss of his friend, Lee did what Lee does best: shout youth a lot and work out. He was still getting over his injuries he got from his fight with Gaara, but had increased his training to get on the active ninja roster faster. Land of Waves. Naruto had first taken inventory of his weapons he got from his parents' house, none of which were special except that the storage scroll in the basement had tons of unmarked Hiraishin kunai, as well as instructions on how to make more. The other scroll in the basement was a jutsu scroll that detailed how to learn and use the Hiraishin. Naruto decided that once he was skilled enough, then he would learn the Hiraishin. The rest of the scrolls fell into a few major categories: jutsu, training, technique, knowledge, sealing, and miscellaneous. Jutsu scrolls were scrolls that detailed how to learn and use a jutsu. Training scrolls detailed different training methods to get different results. Technique scrolls detailed different types and styles of taijutsu and kenjutsu and how to learn them. Knowledge scrolls mostly detailed history, math, science, and other school subjects. Sealing scrolls were scrolls that showed different seals and their uses. The miscellaneous scrolls were everything for random notes his parents made to their will. One scroll he got from his parents' office was the scroll they stored their money in. It had about 20 million ryo. He thought, well, I guess being Hokage paid pretty well. The last scroll he dealt with was the one title in case of death. In it he learned that Jiraiya was his godfather. If I ever see him again, then I am going to beat the shit out of him for leaving me all those years. Each of his parents left a note for him in case they died. They made him happy to know again that his parents loved him no matter what, and sad that he never got to meet them. With all that he had learned and gone through, he changed his plan a bit on what training he should do. He picked a fast and quick-hitting taijutsu style that he would learn and changed his workout to fit that a bit more. He also decided that he needed to find some chakra paper and start working on his affinity. Naruto thought, I would like to start in the place where my mom was from. The letter she left me said she was originally from the village hidden in Whirlpools. Based off the maps that I have, that's an island off the east coast of the Land of Fire. I'll see if there is someone willing to take me there at the docks. Land of Waves. Naruto had asked around a bit to see if there was anyone he could charter a boat from to take him to the Land of Whirlpools. While Naruto was confident that he could sneak through the Land of Fire as he had done a mission as border patrol, so he was familiar with how border patrols worked. He felt it would be best if he stayed out of the Land of Fire as much as possible. He heard that there was one guy that might be willing to take him to the Land of Whirlpools, but it would not be cheap. He was a man by the name of Aiz who was an experienced sailor. Naruto walked up to Aiz and said, I am looking to find someone to take me to the Land of Whirlpools. Aiz responded, I know how to get there, but I doubt you have the money. Anyway, why would someone like you want to go there? Naruto responded, name your price, I have the money, and why I am going is none of your business. Naruto decided it would be best to not say anything about his family, it would be harder for people to find him that way. Aiz retorted, well, I guess it is none of my business why, and it's 100,000 ryo one way. If you want me to come pick you back up, then is another 100,000. Naruto reached into his backpack and showed he had the money. Aiz was surprised that some kid had that much cash. He sighed, he hated the trip, but that much money he could not turn down, and said, okay, I'll take you there, we leave at 8 AM tomorrow. Naruto nodded in confirmation and walked to the market district. Wave Market District. In the market district, Naruto started by getting some new equipment. His old stuff was second-rate and commonly used. This happened because that was mostly all he could buy back in the leaf. Things got a bit better as Kakashi helped him get some better equipment, but most of the stuff he still had was subpar. The first thing Naruto went for was camping and survival equipment. The Land of Waves had gotten better economically since the bridge had been built, but most of the stuff was not as good as the equipment he could get in a hidden village. However, better was still better, so Naruto got a new sleeping bag, winter jacket, lightweight stove and fuel, water purifier, and lightweight tent. When Naruto went to the register to purchase the equipment, the cashier and owner said, wait, I know you. At this, Naruto tensed, but before he could do anything, the owner said, you were one of the ninja that helped free us from Gato. Naruto said sheepishly, oh thanks, I was just doing my job. The owner said, no thank you, you really helped us, I'll give you a discount on this stuff. Naruto looked surprised. He had never been given a discount. Well, except at Ichiraku when they would sometimes give him a free bowl. Naruto just muttered, thanks. After that, Naruto went and got some food and got about a month's worth of food. When he went to buy the stuff, he got a discount like at the other store. Both times when he got the discount, he had a happy feeling and thought, is this what feels like to be appreciated? With that happy thought, he went back to Tazuna's house where he spent the rest of the day getting ready for his trip. Next day at the docks, Naruto arrived at 7:30 AM where he was supposed to and meet Aiz, who said, well, once you pay you can go on board. There are still a few things we need to do before we leave, but we are on schedule to leave at 8. Naruto nodded and said, okay, here is your money. If you don't mind, I will head on board. With that, Naruto pulled out the 100,000 ryo and handed it to Aiz, who then said, You can ask any crew member which room is yours. Naruto walked on, and after finding out which room was his, he pulled out some scrolls he would read while going to the land of Whirlpools. Just off the coast of the land of Whirlpools, Naruto looked over the boat early in the morning. His trip to the land of Whirlpools was almost over. Over the trip, he had mostly done two things: one, plan on what he wanted to do for his training, and two, what to do with his life. He thought, my goal was always to become Hokage, but now I really don't want that anymore. I am still unsure, but I will start with dealing with the Akatsuki. The Akatsuki are coming after me and Gaara, and I can't let them win. His thoughts continued, after I am done in the land of Whirlpools I'll go see Gaara. As he was finishing his thought, Aiz said, we will be making landfall shortly and we can't stay long. Are you sure that you don't need a ride back in a few weeks? Naruto shook his head and said, no, I'll be fine. And I'll be ready. Do get off when you land. Naruto then went to his room and grabbed his stuff and headed up to the deck to get ready to disembark. Coast of the land of Whirlpools. After carefully navigating through the whirlpools, the boat stopped 100 feet from the shoreline. Ice called out to Naruto, this is as close as I can get and you have to leave now. Naruto nodded and jumped off and started to water walk to the shore. Ice thought, so he's a shinobi, interesting. And with that, he turned around and went back out to sea. Naruto started to walk inland and soon found a road that led to a small town. If I remember correctly from the maps I read, there are 10 small towns in the whirlpool and all around the center, the hidden whirlpool village. All of them should be abandoned, but I should keep my guard up in case someone or something is here. After a quick look in the village, he determined that there was nothing of interest and started walking towards the center of the island. The road Naruto was using was still intact but was obviously deteriorating with a lack of maintenance. Outskirts of the hidden whirlpool. It had taken about half a day, but now he was standing on the outskirts of the village hidden in whirlpools. The first and most obvious thing that he noticed was that it was destroyed. Most of the buildings lay in ruins. Naruto noticed that there were some larger buildings that were still mostly standing. They looked to be the Uzumaki clan buildings and building of the hidden village's government. Naruto decided that he would start in those buildings to see if there was anything left of interest. Village center of hidden whirlpool. Naruto looked up at what he believed to be the main administration building of the village. He entered and started to look around. On the upper floors of the building he found what looked like offices. Most of them were a mess with papers everywhere and smashed furniture. In one of the offices, a piece of paper caught Naruto's eye. It had the symbol of the Hyuga clan. After reading it, Naruto said out loud only to himself, so the Hyuga made a request to the Uzumaki clan to update the caged bird seal, so it would only seal away the Byakugan and remove the ability of the main branch to inflict pain onto the side branch through the seal. I wonder if anyone made any progress. If they did, then maybe I will be able to keep my promise to Neji. Naruto put the paper in his backpack. He then looked around to see if there were any more papers about the Hyuga clan. Naruto found a few and added them to his backpack. Naruto continued to explore the building until he determined that there was nothing left of interest and decided it would be best to set up camp for the night. As most other buildings were destroyed, Naruto settled for setting up in one of the rooms in the administration building that was completely enclosed to the elements and also had an intact chair and table. Naruto made dinner and pulled out a scroll he had decided to read first from his collection. It was a scroll detailing the taijutsu style of his father, and Naruto was considering learning this style, but adding some modifications to it. Naruto knew that he was a lot more durable than his father, so Naruto was thinking of adding in more blocking moves to take advantage of this. Also, Naruto wanted to add more power strikes to the style. Naruto did like the fast-paced nature of the fighting style and that wielding a kunai or tanto could easily be incorporated with minimal changes. Naruto slowly went through the katas of the style, for now not doing any modifications, just trying to get an idea of how the style felt. He did this for an hour before he called it a night and went to bed. Next day, Naruto got up and left the administration building and headed to a large cluster of buildings of above average size. He was thinking that this was the Uzumaki clan compound. Once he got to the entrance, he was proven correct with all the whirlpool symbols everywhere. The symbol was all over the village, but this place had the most. Naruto started exploring to see if there was anything of interest. Most of the buildings were empty and bare of anything. Well, this place has been abandoned for decades, so there being nothing makes sense. Naruto thought as he walked through the empty streets. Naruto then came to the biggest of the buildings in the compound. After a short inspection of the door, it appeared that there was a seal on it. It looks kind of like the blood seals at my parents' house. Well, I guess there is only one thing to do. With that, Naruto bit his thumb and smeared some blood on the seal and added chakra. Naruto heard a latch slip and turned the knob and pushed the door open. Well, it looks like I am enough of an Uzumaki to get in. Naruto started to explore to see what was in the building and if there was anything interesting. He found the clan library and was disappointed when he found nothing. Well, it seems that someone else from my clan had the same idea and cleared the place out. Oh well, at least it was likely other Uzumakis. Naruto continued to see if there was anything when he stumbled into a very weird room. Naruto looked around. It seemed that the entire room was covered in a very complex sealing matrix. At the center of the matrix looked a little like some of the blood seals that he had seen, and before Naruto thought too much about it, he bit his thumb and applied blood and chakra. The matrix started to glow a light blue. Naruto quickly got up. Before he could take a step, he heard a voice from behind in the direction of the door. It said, "It's been a long time since anyone has activated that seal." Naruto spun around and backed up and said, "Who are you?" in a semi-scared voice. The now revealed man had long white hair and white goatee. He wore a long-sleeve black robe that went down to the floor with the Uzumaki symbol on each shoulder. Over top the robe, he had a blue chest plate. He started to laugh and said, "Don't be afraid, I mean you no harm." Naruto relaxed a bit but didn't let down his guard. The man continued, "Well, I supposed I should introduce myself. I am Ashina Uzumaki, former head of the Uzumaki clan. I made the seal you just activated." Naruto asked, "What is it supposed to do?" Ashina responded, "You don't know? You just found a random seal and activated it having no idea what it would do." Naruto glared at Ashina and Ashina chuckled a bit and said, "Oh, don't be so mad, I am just teasing you a little bit." "Well, I supposed I should explain. But first, I will first have to determine if you are worthy of knowing," Ashina stated. Naruto in a confused voice asked, "How do I do that?" Ashina then asked, "Why did you come here?" Naruto sat down feeling he would be talking for a while, then said, "Well, I was banished from my village. Before I was banished, I learned that my mom grew up here. I know that this place was destroyed, but I still wanted to see it just to learn a bit about my lineage." Ashina then replied, "So you hope to learn about your mom's side of the family?" "Yeah, I was also planning on staying for a bit to start my training. There is a group of very powerful shinobi that want to find me and kill me." Ashina asked curiously, "You don't seem like the type of person to have many enemies. So why are they after you?" Naruto answered, "I am the Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. The group is called Akatsuki and they are trying to collect all the tailed beasts." Ashina looked shocked and said, "Why would they do something like that? Do you know what they are planning?" Naruto shook his head and replied, "I don't know. I don't even know if anyone outside of the Akatsuki knows their plans." Ashina said, "So you are training to protect yourself?" Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, but not just myself. I don't know if you know how Jinchuriki are treated, but we are mostly shunned and ignored, and that's at the best of times. Not too long ago I met another Jinchuriki, his name is Gaara, and he had it much worse than me. His tailed beast drove him insane and his father tried to kill him 6 times. After I fought him and beat him, he started to get his life turned around, and I consider him a friend. He is the only person I have met that understands what it is like to be shunned and hated by everyone you see. I don't just plan to protect myself, I plan to help Gaara and any other Jinchuriki I can. I have realized one thing, that Jinchuriki have to stick together, because if we don't, then sometimes no one will." Ashina nodded and said, "What if I told you I could help you train?" Naruto looked up at Ashina hopefully and said, "You would help me?" Ashina nodded and said, "Of course, I wouldn't be much of an Uzumaki if I turned down a fellow Uzumaki in need. I'll tell you how this will work, but not here." After he said that, a door opened out of the wall. Naruto looked and all he could see was black. Ashina said, "Follow me." Not too far away, a pair of slitted eyes watched the interaction between the two Uzumakis. Then a voice came from near the eyes and said, "It seems an Uzumaki has returned here and has been let into the Uzumaki training vault. How interesting, boss will want to know about this." With a puff of smoke, the eyes were gone. Back with Naruto. Naruto watched as Ashina walked up to and then through the door of darkness. Naruto looked at it for a second and then followed. Once his eyes had passed through the blackness, Naruto saw something he was not expecting. It was a massive library with many rows of books and tables to work at. Ashina then said, "Now that I have let you in, I will explain what this is. This is a pocket dimension that was created by the Uzumaki clan to safeguard our secrets. How this is done is by making only an Uzumaki able to activate the seal to get in, but also, there is a guard to make sure only those worthy of entering can come in. I am the current guardian of the training vault, as we have decided to call it. I am not actually real, I am a projection of my memory that I have encoded into the seal that created this place." Naruto gave a confused look and said, "I don't get it?" Ashina said, "Don't worry, it's just some complicated seal thing that I will explain to you when you are ready." Naruto nodded, still confused, and said, "If you say so. Now we should talk about your training. I can only really help you with sealing and maybe a bit with jutsu, but everything else you will have to do on your own." Naruto responded enthusiastically because now the topic was something he understood. "Yes, I already have a plan, it's not complete, but it's most of the way there. I got a bunch of scrolls before I left my village. I have picked out a taijutsu style that I want to learn. I also would like to start to work on my elemental affinity, get better chakra control, and work on my physical conditioning. One of the jutsu that I am really good at is the shadow clone jutsu. One of the interesting things about shadow clones is that they have physical form, and when they dispel, their memories return to me. I was thinking that it may be possible to increase the speed at which I train if I use lots of shadow clones." Ashina nodded interestingly and replied, "That sounds like an interesting idea that you should try. I think it would work best for things like jutsu, elemental manipulation, and chakra control, and learning from books. However, I will not teach a shadow clone, I will only teach the original." Naruto nodded in agreement and thought about it for a minute, trying to come up with a plan, and when it did, he said, "How about in the mornings I will make a bunch of shadow clones that work on the things they can outside, as I don't think this place is the best for learning jutsu, and they will do that all day, and in the evening I will dispel them. Original me will do the physical training I need to do in the mornings, and then in the afternoon and evening, I can learn sealing from you. If I still have some chakra, I can make clones that will read books and scrolls in the afternoon." Ashina said, "That sounds like a very intense plan, but you have vast reserves of chakra, so it might just work. Just be sure to start with only a few shadow clones and build up so you don't overdo yourself and pass out for a few days." Naruto nodded in seeing Ashina point. Naruto was pleased that there was a plan for his training. Naruto then asked, "There wouldn't happen to be any chakra paper here? I don't know what my affinity is." Ashina nodded. "There is some in one of the supply rooms. I'll give you a quick tour so you know your way around. Then at the end you can find out what your affinity is." Naruto nodded and followed. The tour was pretty quick as there was not much to show. During the tour, Ashina showed Naruto the various sections of the library, a small kitchen area, and a few amenities that were available. They ended it at one of the supply rooms. They both walked in and Ashina pointed out a small box. Naruto went and opened it. Inside was a bunch of small papers. Naruto pulled one out and then put the box back. He then ran some chakra through the paper and it violently ripped in half. Ashina noted, "So you're a wind type. They are not that common for our clan. Uzumakis are mostly water types." Naruto nodded and was about to say something when a yawn escaped him. Ashina chuckled and said, "Looks like you are getting tired. It has been a long day for you. How about you get to bed and we can start your training in the morning?" Naruto nodded and was about to go when a thought hit him. "Where should I sleep? Most of the city is destroyed, so I don't think I can stay there." Ashina thought for a minute and said, "While this place is not really set up for someone to live in here, most of the amenities you need are here, like a bathroom and a kitchen. Your best option is probably to pick a spot and sleep there." Naruto nodded, not liking sleeping on the floor, but since he didn't have any other ideas he realized it would have to do. "Also, I only have about 1 month's worth of food. Any ideas on where to stock up?" Ashina thought for a minute and said, "I can give you instructions on how to navigate through the whirlpools while water walking. If you go straight to the mainland and a bit north, there should be a town. I don't think it is that big since the destruction of this village, but it should have everything you need. So once a month you will have a break from training and go to the village and resupply." Naruto nodded. Now that the plan for his training had been flushed out, he was happy. "Well, it seems that everything is planned out, so I am going to go to sleep." 1 month later. Naruto had just crossed the water and was now in the land of fire. He had transformed so that no passing leaf shinobi could recognize him. Naruto also thought that at this point no one would give him much of a second glance as he was in a very remote part of the land of fire. Naruto started to think about all the training he was doing as he walked north. His day started out with waking up at 5 a.m. and eating breakfast, then he would exit the vault and make shadow clone. He started with only 10 and increased it and soon found his limit to be about 80 clones per day. After making the clones he would do physical exercises. He also did a bit of ninja training with throwing kunai and shuriken while doing various maneuvers. At noon he would leave his clones and go back to the vault and eat lunch. After lunch he would work with Ashina on sealing till 7, then eat dinner and then dispel his clones. Naruto dispelled his clones 5 at a time every minute so the mental burden of the clones didn't hit him so hard. He would then go to bed, usually too tired to do much else. In just the 1 month Naruto was making lots of progress. He almost mastered the wind element, something that took some people years to do. And his control over chakra had also improved. He was thinking that in a month or so he may be able to do the Rasengan one-handed. He had also had a small growth spurt, going from 4 feet 10 inches to 5 feet, even still a bit short for his age but not by much. He had also burned off what little baby fat he still and was starting to get a more muscular build. Land of Fire. The town was now coming into view and he noticed it was not that big of a town, but it was not small, had about 5 to 7,000 people living in it. Naruto thought this was perfect as it was small enough to be out of the way but big enough that he could go unnoticed. When Naruto got to the town, the first thing Naruto did was go restock on food, as that was the most important thing. When he went to the grocery store he sighed and pulled out a list that Ashina had told him he was supposed to buy. Ashina was not happy when he learned that Naruto mostly had ramen for food and told him if he was going to get training he would have to buy healthier food. Some of the first seals that Ashina had Naruto learn were modifications of the basic enclosing seal to do special things. One of the seals he learned could keep things like meat, vegetables and fruit fresh for over a month. So now Naruto had no excuse for eating poorly. He had more than enough money and the ability to keep good food for a very long time. Naruto quickly paid for the food and left. He went to a side street that no one was on and sealed everything he got into the scrolls he brought and moved on to the next thing he needed to buy. The next place Naruto went was a clothing store to update his wardrobe. While he still liked his orange jacket and pants, they were starting to get a bit small and worn out. So he picked out a simple outfit that would work for his training of a black t-shirt and black cargo pants. I would have liked to get some real shinobi gear, but this town doesn't have a shinobi store. I will just have to go to a hidden village and get new gear after I finish my training. Naruto thought as he left the clothing store now in his new outfit. The next store was a home supply store where Naruto bought a futon and some other stuff so that would make staying in the vault easier. A dark cave, unknown location. One hologram of what looked like a person appeared. Shortly after the first came, 8 more came. The one that held himself like the leader said, "Has anyone got any information on Kome?" A man with red sclera and green pupils said, "I have heard the small rumors about him but nothing that we can do anything about." When no one else said anything, the leader glared and said, "He needs to be found. He is the same priority as the Jinchuriki. He knows too much to be left alive." Now I want a report on the Jinchuriki. They were standing in a circle and one of them spoke, "The 9 Tails has been banished from the hidden leaf. He disappeared and we have been unable to track him. Not even the hidden leaf knows where he is." The man who spoke could barely be identified as a man. His face was split into 2 colors and there was a strange plan-like appendage that surrounded his head. The leader then said, "This is a problem but not insurmountable. We still have 3 years till we can seal away any of the tailed beasts. It will be a few more years till the 3 tails reforms, so those 2 are unaccounted for. Have you all tracked down the other Jinchuriki?" The red and green-eyed man said, "The 7 tails is still in its village and the 5 tails roams the land of earth. I have a spy tracking his movements." The leader nodded. A man with a bang of hair covering one eye and ponytail said, "The 1 tails is still in his village. He is sent out on missions, so we will need to watch when he goes out on mission to capture him." A hunched-over man next to him said, "The 2 tails is in the same situation as the 1 tails. She mostly takes solo missions and we can time our strike to when she is out of the village. The 8 tails doesn't leave the village much as the Raikage likes to keep him close to the village in case of attack. The leader nodded. A man that almost looked like a shark said, "The Four Tails is in the same situation to the Five, however he is more elusive and we are trying to pin down his exact location." A shorter man next to the shark with red eyes with 3 black spots in each said, "Rumor has it that the 1 and 9 tails are friends. It is possible that he will seek asylum in the sand. I will start my investigation for him there. Also, he has ties to the lands of Waves, Waterfall, and Spring. He may also seek asylum in those countries." He then said, "Has anyone heard anything about the 6 tails?" The plant man said, "He ran away from the mist when an operation to change his seal went wrong and he killed his sensei. Currently, I am tracking a group of Mist Anbu tasked with bringing him back now that the civil war in the mist is over." The leader, now not very happy that now 4-tailed beasts were not tracked down, said, "We have 3 years to find them. You all have your assignments and I want those Jinchuriki and Komei tracked down as fast as possible." With Sakura was currently working on medical ninjutsu. After Sakura had stopped crying over Naruto's banishment and Sasuke's defection, she had convinced Tsunade to take her on as an apprentice. Sakura thought back on that conversation. Flashback. Sakura walked into Tsunade's office and said, "I would like to become your apprentice and learn medical ninjutsu from you." Tsunade looked at her for a minute and said, "Why do you want this training? I am not just going to teach you because you think it will be fun or even think that you will be good at it. There are plenty of people who can teach you, so why me specifically?" Sakura got a determined look on her face and said, "I lost 2 teammates and I want to bring them back. I will admit that I am weak. I thought I knew what it took to be a ninja in the academy, but I was wrong. I thought all I need to be was smart and follow instructions. I now realize how wrong I was. I want to be strong. Strong enough to bring back both of my friends." Tsunade nodded. This was the answer that she wanted to hear. She walked over to one of the bookshelves and pulled out some scrolls. She walked up to Sakura and said, "I want you to read through these and memorize the information. You will need to know it if you want to learn medical ninjutsu. Also, one contains a chakra control exercise. I want you to master it. Once you have done these 2 things, come back and we can start your real training. I expect you to be done in 1 week." Sakura nodded and left the Hokage's office determined to complete the task given to her. End flashback. Sakura continued to concentrate on the task Tsunade had given her. Tsunade was watching her student practice, mostly to get away from paperwork, was happy with how Sakura was doing. Her determination hasn't faltered and she is progressing faster than Shizune. She might just become a great medic at this rate. Tsunade thought. With Shikamaru. For the whole month, Shikamaru could not get the mystery of Naruto out of his head. He was now sitting in the Chunin section of the library with a pile of notes, scrolls, and books in front of him. The notes contained everything that he knew about Naruto. Some of the facts were sticking out to him. One, Naruto's birthday was on the same day the 9 tails attacked. Naruto was never at the academy on his birthday, and the days before and after Naruto was a lot quieter. Naruto also never told anyone about his birthday. Something that surprised Shikamaru because based on Naruto's personality, Shikamaru would have thought Naruto would be telling everyone about his birthday and act a lot happier. Shikamaru had learned about it when he heard Naruto and Iruka talk about it. Also, the day after his birthday, Naruto always looked more tired than usual and commonly had some scratches and bruises. There was also Naruto's massive amounts of chakra. While in the academy he knew Naruto had a lot of chakra, but after he graduated he learned that Naruto's were above an average Jonin's reserves. Something that is almost unprecedented. He learned about this when Ino was arguing with Choji soon after graduation. Flashback. "I definitely have the most chakra of all of us," Choji said. Ino retorted and said, "No, Sasuke's an Uchiha and he definitely has the most." Their conversation went back and forth, going nowhere till Asuma showed up to start the team meeting. When he saw his 2 arguing students he sighed and said, "What are you 2 arguing about?" Ino in an annoyed voice said, "Choji insists that he has the most chakra out of our class while it is clearly Sasuke." She said Sasuke in a dreamy voice. Before Asuma thought about it too much he said, "Well, you're both wrong. Naruto has the most out of all your class. If I remember the file on him correctly, he has about as much chakra as I do." He said this while looking off into space, not realizing that he wasn't supposed to tell his students that. Ino then shouted, "No way, he can't even make a clone. How can he have that much chakra?" Asuma then realized what he had done and tried to redirect the conversation. Well, it mostly has to do with chakra control since he has so much it's hard to control it. You can have all the chakra in the world but if you can't control it you won't be able to cast jutsu. Which leads to today's training tree walking. Asuma patted himself on the back mentally for coming up with such a great redirect and then started on his students' training. End flashes back. Shikamaru pulled out one of the books he had collected. It was about tailed beasts. He opened it up and read the table of contents and one of the chapter names caught his eye. It was titled Jinchuriki. Shikamaru looked at it for a second and thought, Jinchuriki, that means power of human sacrifice. I wonder what that is all about. Shikamaru opened to that chapter and started to read. The first thing he found was the definition of Jinchuriki as a person who is the container for the storage of a tailed beast. Shikamaru was shocked that something like that was even possible and continued to read. He later read how tailed beasts could not be destroyed so the only way to defeat them was to seal them away. That's when it clicked for Shikamaru. That explains everything. From how he was treated to his unusual chakra supplies. Shikamaru thought as he continued to read after an hour he had to read everything there was to read. He got up, put the books back and collected his things and walked out. He had to go talk to some people about this. Hokage's office. Tsunade was happy for once the last month had been hell. Several of the countries Naruto had helped in the past were not happy with his banishment. One country, the land of snow, now the land of spring, had cut off all trade with the land of fire over this. None of the others did this but stated that they would be looking elsewhere to have their missions done. While this was annoying, there weren't enough to make that much of a difference. Tsunade was happy because Sakura was making fast progress. Tsunade thought, Sakura just might be able to surpass me one day. While thinking about the training she was going to give Sakura, she heard a knock on the door. She then called out, "Come in." After that the door opened and Shikamaru stepped in. Tsunade then said, "Is there something you need, Shikamaru? It's not like Shikamaru to come to my office to talk and he usually looks bored, now he looks kind of mad. I wonder what's going on to get him so worked up." Tsunade thought with a hint of curiosity. Shikamaru walked in and took a deep breath and began to speak. "I have been thinking a lot about Naruto recently. There's something that everyone wasn't telling us." Tsunade leaned forward in her chair and was thinking, so it seems he has either figured it out or he is going to demand some answers. Let's see where this goes. Shikamaru continued, "So he's the Jinchuriki of the Nine Tails." Tsunade then said, "Yes, so you figured it out." Shikamaru then gave a quick explanation of how he came to his conclusion. Tsunade then asked, "Does this change how you feel about him?" Shikamaru then sighed, "Well, it makes him more troublesome, but he is still my friend and I will help him." Tsunade smiled but then got serious and said, "Not long after Naruto was born, Sarutobi-sensei made a law that no one could tell anyone that did not know of his status, which is why your generation doesn't know of it. I was planning to have Naruto tell you all when everyone became a Chunin, but well, that might not happen at this rate. By the way, the law technically doesn't apply to the Hokage or Naruto, but it does apply to you. I would like you to keep this a secret." Shikamaru nodded and left the Hokage's office thinking about troublesome blondes making things complicated. Naruto was walking from the land of Whirlpools to the land of fire, going over in his head all that he had done and how much he had grown since he had started training. Naruto had grown while training, going from 4 feet 10 inches to now stating at 5 feet 4 inches. His body was now well muscled but not overly bulky. Naruto's conditioning had improved greatly, mostly because he started to use resistance seals. These seals increased the resistance his body had to deal with so that Naruto could release them and get a boost in both speed and strength. These seals were very convenient as they would increase their resistance on their own. They would increase in small increments and only when Naruto's body was ready for them to. This meant that Naruto didn't have to worry about adjusting, and that if Naruto was ever injured or sick, they would deactivate or lower their level on their own so that Naruto could still move. Once a week Naruto would deactivate them and train without them so that he was used to his speed and strength without them on. Naruto's taijutsu had also improved, successfully modifying his father's fighting style. It was still a bit rough, but with experience, he would be fine. He had learned a lot about sealing jutsu. While not a master, he wasn't far away. With experience and time, he would get there. There was little he could not do with seals, and if there was something he couldn't do straight away, given enough time he could figure it out. He had mastered the wind element and was competent with water. He had not mastered water but was able to use some C and B rank jutsu in a fight if needed. Naruto had also mastered the Rasengan and could do it one-handed as well as make it bigger. Naruto was thinking that learning Earth next would be good so that he could do defensive jutsu and the surface hiding technique. Naruto's chakra level had also grown a lot. He had the most chakra of his class including his senseis, but with making over 100 shadow clones a day for a year and a half his level was now on par with shinobi like Jiraiya. With the increased chakra levels Naruto had increased the number of clones per day he could make for training from 80 to 250. Although Naruto had made a lot of progress in ninjutsu, he was a bit disappointed that he didn't get as far as he wanted. This was mostly because early on he had decided to focus more clones on the library than in training, but Naruto ended up reading through much of what was available that was relevant to him. Naruto decided that he would focus more on his jutsu once he started to train again. Naruto had also improved his chakra control a lot so that it wouldn't hold him back. He then started to think about the next things he wanted to learn. I have gotten better, a lot better, but I can't beat an S-rank ninja. If I want to help save my friends and beat the Akatsuki, I'll need to get better. I think the next things I should do are complete the Rasengan, learn the Hiraishin, and continue to learn elemental jutsu. Also, there is that task that Ashina gave me. Ashina had given Naruto a very complicated seal that he had to undo, and he told him that once he had done that to come back to the vault. Land of Fire. Naruto continued to think about this as he got to the mainland. Then his mind started to think about where he was going to go next. I should go see Gaara and see how he is doing. Maybe I could fix his seal so that the one tail isn't bothering him too much. It would be fastest to cut across the Land of Fire, but that might not end well for me. I should probably go around through all the minor countries just to be safe. Naruto started to head north to the border with the Land of Hot Water. The Land of Hot Water was demilitarized with no hidden village within its borders. There were basically no border patrols from the Leaf in that area, so it was easy for Naruto to slip past the border, where he started to head north to the border with the Land of Rice Paddies. After about an hour of travel in the Land of Hot Water, a cloaked figure appeared in his path. Naruto stopped and looked at the man. He was the man that Naruto had met the night he left the Leaf. Naruto continued till he was about 30 feet away when the man said, "Well, it looks like you have grown up a bit and gotten stronger." Naruto then said, "Yeah, I have been training very hard." "Why are you here?" The cloaked man pulled down his hood and sat on the tree branch he was standing on and said, "Well, this is just a happy coincidence. I was heading to the Land of Lighting to deal with some stuff when I sensed your chakra and decided to come say hi." Naruto decided not to sit down but let his guard down a bit and leaned against the tree he was standing on and asked, "Why did you help me before I left the village?" The man responded, "Well, I heard about what was happening and I was in the area. I thought you could use some help. Plus, I thought you could make an interesting ally." Naruto, still suspicious of the man, asked, "Who are you and why did you want me as an ally?" The man said, "How about this, you answer my question and I'll answer your questions and tell you a bit about me." Naruto, now very suspicious, nodded. The cloaked figure then asked, "What are your plans for the future and what do you intend on doing with the Akatsuki?" Naruto responded, "I plan on beating the Akatsuki and stopping whatever their plan is. Beyond that, I don't know, but I will do my best to bring whatever amount of good to this world I can." The man smiled and said, "Good, now that I know that we are on the same page, I will tell you my name. My name is K Hagoromo. I am from the mist, but I left during the bloodline purges, because of my Kekkei Genkai. Even though the purges have ended and the current Mizukage has bloodlines herself, I don't really feel like going back." "Why not go back?" Naruto asked. "That's a long story that should never be told. But anyway, back to the Akatsuki," Komei said, redirecting the conversation. Naruto relaxed little and asked, "So you're the fighting the Akatsuki?" Komei responded, "Yes, they're collecting all the tailed beasts. They're planning to use them to take over the world. Also, I have reason to believe that the Akatsuki are at least in some way responsible for starting the bloodline purges, but I don't have much of a lead on it. I will be up front with you right now. The Akatsuki tried to recruit me, and when they told me they were collecting tailed beasts, I decided to join. I did that mostly because I wanted to learn more about what their plans are. I also figured out that their leader is fucking insane and would likely kill most of the human population and enslave everyone he didn't kill if his plans are completed. Komei's face got very serious and he said, "The thing that scares me the most is that if he got all the tailed beasts he could probably go through with his plans. Once I figured that out I got all the intel on the Akatsuki I left that organization." Naruto nodded a bit shocked at all the Komei had told him. Komei continued, "Anyway, how about I tell you a bit about myself? I am the last living member of the Hagoromo clan. I specialize in high kinetic energy weapons using my magnet-styled Kekkei Genkai. I was a member of the 7 ninja swordsmen of the mist and I wield the sword sewing needle." Naruto nodded. Komei continued putting a serious face on. "We can't exactly be partners as you cannot come with me, but any information I get on the Akatsuki or other threats I will pass on to you. Now part of my plan to stop the Akatsuki is to prevent them from getting any Jinchuriki. I would like you to go to the hidden waterfall and see if their Jinchuriki is safe. If she isn't, then think of something to help her. The waterfall is the weakest village that has a Jinchuriki, as such she is in the most vulnerable position. She is a girl around your age with mint green hair and her name is Fu." Naruto nodded. "I know the leader of the hidden waterfall. I'll talk to him about it and make sure that she is safe." Komei motioned for Naruto to come over. Naruto jumped to the branch that Komei was sitting on. Komei pulled a book out and handed it to Naruto. "What's this?" Naruto asked. Komei answered, "It's a bingo book of all known Akatsuki members and associates as well as everything I know about them. It's not complete as most of them have been staying off the grid for a while and things have likely changed since I left. You can pass that information on to whoever you think will need it, but don't go passing this to every stranger you meet, it will draw attention to yourself." Naruto nodded and he said, "I am pretty good at this point but I doubt I can take on an S-rank ninja." Komei nodded and said, "That's fine for now. They won't be making their move to capture the Jinchuriki for another year and a half or so. I am looking into if I can delay them at all, but it doesn't seem likely at this point. You have time, but we should set up our plan to counter them and get ready. Once I hear where they will strike I'll send you a message." Naruto nodded and took the book and started to flip through the pages. He stopped when he got to a guy that was half black and half white that had a Venus flytrap projection over his head. "What the hell is this guy?" Naruto said and showed Komei the page. Komei laughed and said, "That's Zetsu and no one really knows what he is. He has a split personality, the white half nice and friendly, but black half is bit of a. I don't know what any of his abilities are except that his white half can make clones of himself that can replace him if necessary, but the black half can't. He can split in half and the black and white halves can work separately from each other. His clones can all communicate over large distances quickly. I don't know how good of a fighter he is, as he mostly works as a spy for the Akatsuki. I don't think he is that good at fighting, but just be aware that he is out there and could cause some issues." Naruto nodded and said, "Well, it doesn't look like this is going to be easy, but we will just have to deal with it and fight them." Komei smiled and said, "So where are you going to go now?" Naruto replied, "Well, first I am going to go to the hidden waterfall and check on both Fu and Shibuki. After that head to the sand to see Gaara. Then I'll find a place to train till the Akatsuki come out. I may head back to the Whirlpool, it's out of the way so it would be hard for the Akatsuki to find me." Komei pulled out a scroll and said, "This is a map to an old military base that I found. The country it was for no longer exists and now it's just an empty corner of the Land of Wind. It is secluded enough that you should be able to train there with no issue. I was planning on turning it into a base of operations to deal with the Akatsuki. It's a bit far from a town, which is a bit inconvenient, but it's so far out of the way that being found is not likely." Naruto opened the scroll and looked at it. "It's a lot closer to the sand than coming back to the Whirlpool and I won't have to deal with going into the Land of Fire. I think I'll go there." "Cool, save me a room. I'll be coming by there in a couple of months once I have finished some preparations that I'll tell you about in the future," Komei said. Komei got up and shook Naruto's hand, then they both went their separate ways. Naruto continued to the border of the Land of Rice Paddies and the Land of Hot Water. Naruto encountered no difficulty on his way to the border. Land of Rice Paddies. Naruto had just entered the Land of Rice Paddies when he started to sense a battle. While Naruto was no sensory type, he could detect if there was a battle happening. Naruto decided to head over to the battle and see what was happening. By the time he got there, it wasn't much of a battle. There were 3 dead ninja and 5 living ones. 4 of them were wearing standard sound uniforms. They surrounded the last ninja. A girl who was about the same age as Naruto with long orange hair and a dark blue beanie. She was wearing a gray ninja vest and dark green ninja shorts. Naruto could tell that the girl was neither experienced nor skilled at being a ninja. He could tell this by the way she held herself and that she was shaking in fear at being surrounded by the 4 sound ninja. She didn't even have a kunai out to defend herself. The 4 sound ninja were standing around the girl and talking about what they should do with her. The leader said, "Look, we are just going to kill her and be done with it. She is weak and wouldn't survive 1 minute in Orochimaru's lab. I am just going to kill her." The other 3 nodded and the one that spoke pulled out a kunai to kill the girl. Seeing that they were going to kill the girl, Naruto sprang into action and charging in and putting a Rasengan in the back of the leader. Before the other 3 could act, Naruto pulled out a kunai from a seal on his wrist and shoved into the chest of one of the sound ninja next to him, giving the sound ninja a fatal wound. The last 2 jumped away to get some distance from Naruto. Naruto, ignoring the fact that he had just had his first 2 kills, went through a string of hand signs and said, "Wind style, great breakthrough," sending a powerful wave of condensed wind chakra at one of the remaining sound ninja. This slammed the sound ninja into a boulder, snapping his neck, killing him instantly. The last sound ninja pulled out a handful of shuriken and threw them at Naruto. Naruto rolled out of the way and summoned 4 kunai in each hand from the seal on his forearm and charged all of them with wind chakra and threw them in a spread that the sound ninja couldn't dodge. 2 of the kunai hit one in the right shoulder and another in the stomach. The last ninja fell and quickly bled out. The engagement didn't last longer than about 45 seconds, but at the end, Naruto had racked up his first 4 kills. When he was done, he started to walk over to the girl, who started to panic, thinking Naruto might hurt her. When Naruto saw this, he stopped and gave her a warm smile and said, "Don't worry, I am not going to hurt you." She visibly relaxed and Naruto walked forward and said in a calm voice, "Are you alright?" Naruto held out his hand, offering to help her up. She took his hand and got up. "My name is Sasama Fuma, thanks for saving me," she said in a timid voice. Naruto gave her another warm smile and said, "Nice to meet you, Sasama. My name is Menma Uzumaki." Naruto gave her a fake name so it would be harder for the Akatsuki to find him. Feeling calmer now that the threat was gone, she said, "Thanks for saving me, but why did you step in?" Naruto responded, "I don't exactly like the Sound Village, they have hurt me and my friends in the past. Also, I just couldn't stand by and watch you get killed, I couldn't live with myself if I did that." Naruto then said, "Do you know who the other 3 are?" Sasama nodded. "We are all members of the Fuma clan." Naruto nodded and then Sasama said, "It's going to be dark soon and there's no town nearby. You can stay with my clan for the night if you like. They don't like outsiders, but since you saved me they won't mind." Naruto smiled and said, "Thanks, I would appreciate it. I'll go put the bodies of your clansmen in a scroll so we can take them back to get a proper burial." Sasama nodded sadly, now remembering that 3 of her family had been killed. Naruto quickly collected the bodies and then walked off with Sasama. Outside Fuma clan compound. As Naruto and Sasama were approaching the compound, 4 figures appeared out of nowhere. The lead one said, "Sasama, who is this and where are Kamakiri, Kagero, and Jigumo?" Sasama responded, "This is Menma Uzumaki, and Kamakiri, Kagero, and Jigumo are dead. We were attacked by some sound ninja and they were killed. Menma stepped in and saved me before I was killed." Naruto then said, "I have their bodies sealed in this scroll." While showing the scroll that contained the 3 bodies, the lead one said, "Damn, we lost 3 more to the sound. Well, thank you Menma for saving Sasama and bringing their bodies back. Most of the time we don't get the bodies back, either they're captured or the bodies are taken. They do that so they can experiment on them. Anyway, we shouldn't think about such awful things right now. I presume that she offered you a place to sleep for the night?" Sasama said, "Yes Arashi, I know we don't normally let in outsiders, but he saved me and there was nowhere else for him to go." Arashi said, "It's okay if he helped you, then it's okay if he stays here for a while. If he stayed out in the wild, the sound would likely come and try to capture you. We should go and see our leader Hanzaki." With that, the 6 of them headed into the compound. Inside Fuma compound. When Naruto entered the compound, he noted that most of the buildings were in disrepair and run down a bit, but all seemed like they were built well enough that they wouldn't fall down anytime soon. He was led to the largest building. Arashi led Naruto and Sasama to the head of the Fuma clan. When they entered, Arashi said, "Sasama has returned, but Kamakiri, Kagero, and Jigumo are all dead. They were killed by some sound ninja. This is Menma Uzumaki." He intervened in time to save Sasama. "Damn, that isn't good. The sound has really been pushing news lately and I don't know how much longer we can last." "Well, we can think about such morbid things later." The clan head said. Menma Uzumaki was it. "Well, thank you for saving Sasama. It's late and you can stay the night here if you want." "Thank you, Hanzaki-san. Also, I have the bodies of you fallen clansmen in this scroll," Naruto said as he pulled out the scroll that contained the bodies and handed it to Hanzaki. "Thank you, now they can get proper burials. We have already served dinner, but you and Sasama can go to the kitchen and make some dinner," the clan head responded. Naruto said, "Thanks." Naruto and Sasama went into the kitchen and they went over to look at what they could make. Sasama said, "I don't really know how to cook, so I don't really know what we should make." Naruto then said, "Don't worry, I know how to. Let's just do something basic. How does fried rice sound?" Sasama said, "That sounds fine." Naruto quickly made the fried rice and he and Sasama sat at a table in a large mess hall to eat. After a little bit, Naruto asked, "So why are the sound trying so hard to destroy your clan?" Sasama sighed and said, "It's a long story, so I'll start from the beginning. Most of the shinobi clans in the land of rice paddies were nearly destroyed during a war of expansion that our daimyo forced us to do, where we invaded the land of hot water to the east and the land of woods to the west. The war was a complete failure and many of the shinobi clans were almost destroyed. Not too long ago, Orochimaru started to create the hidden Sound Village. All of the shinobi clans were asked to join the Sound Village. Half of my clan saw it as a way of regaining past glory, while the other half saw through Orochimaru's deception and refused to join. So our clan split, half with him and half stayed independent. Orochimaru sees us as a possible threat as we know some of his secrets from those who changed their mind once they saw what Orochimaru was doing. So while he hasn't sent his full power at us, he has made it impossible for us to get out of the country to ask for help. He also likes to experiment on those he captures." Naruto nodded and said, "Yeah, wherever that snake bastard goes, death and trouble follows. Is there anything you know I could do to help?" Sasama seemed surprised and said, "You would help us fight Orochimaru?" Naruto nodded and said, "Of course, you aren't the only one who would to see that bastard taken down. Orochimaru killed the man I saw as a grandfather and he has hurt many others close to me." Sasama then said, "I don't know, but Hanzaki-sama might have some ideas." Naruto nodded and said, "I'll ask him tomorrow before I leave." With that, they finished their meal and put the dirty dishes in the sink. Sasama then led Naruto to a spare room when they both went to bed. Naruto tried to get some sleep, but he couldn't. Whenever he was close to sleep, he would remember that he had killed for the first time earlier that day and he would become fully awake again. After a while, Naruto gave up on trying to sleep and decided that a walk around and some fresh air would do him some good. After a bit of walking around the compound, he sat under a tree and looked up at the stars. After a while, one of the clan members he had met when he arrived came up and sat next to him. Arashi asked, "Can't sleep?" Naruto nodded and said, "I just can't get the thought out of my head that I kill someone today." Arashi nodded and asked, "Was it your first time killing?" Naruto nodded and said, "I have been in life or death fights before, but I have never killed." Arashi replied and said, "I know I only met you a few hours ago, but do you want to talk about it? It will likely make you feel better and it won't make you feel worse." Naruto shrugged and said, "I would, but I don't even know where to start." "Well then, how about I start? When I had my first kill, it was kind of like you. I couldn't get it out of my head and I didn't know how to feel about it. After a while I started to focus more on why I killed than the act of killing. My first time I did it was to protect one of my friends from a bandit. For me, at least, the reason I seek to become stronger is to be able to protect my friends and family. Sometimes that means that I have to do things I don't want to do, like kill. But if I don't do what is necessary to protect them, I am failing to live up to my promise to protect them. By not killing, I am saying that the life of someone else is more important to me than keeping the promise to protect those who are precious to me," Arashi said. They sat in silence for a bit and then Naruto got up and started to walk away. Arashi then called out, "Where are you going?" Naruto replied, "Back to bed," as he walked away with a yawn. Arashi chuckled and thought, "Well, it looks like I helped." The next day, Naruto got up later than he had in a long time and feeling a lot better than he did yesterday. He thought back on what Arashi told him. Arashi is right, sometimes protecting the things I care about means that I have to do things I don't like. I don't ever want to be the type of person that likes to kill, but I will do what is necessary to protect those I care about. Even though Arashi was a stranger to Naruto, he had helped him a lot. Naruto got out of bed and packed his stuff up and got ready to go. After everything was packed, he left his room and went to see if Hanzaki was free to talk. When Naruto got to Hanzaki's office, he saw that Hanzaki was free, so he knocked on the door. Hanzaki called out, "Come in." Naruto entered and sat in one of the chairs in the office. Naruto then said, "I talked to Sasama last night about the sound. I was wondering if there is anything I could do to help you." Hanzaki thought about it for a minute. Sasama had told him that Naruto had his own reasons for fighting against the sound and that they were similar to his own. "Do you think you could get a message to the hidden leaf for me? Every time I try and send one of my men, they end up getting killed by the sound." Naruto nodded and said, "It might take a while, but I can do that." Hanzaki smiled and quickly wrote up a letter and handed it to Naruto. Naruto took the letter and said, "I'll get this to the leaf as fast as possible, but can you do me a favor and not tell the leaf I was here? It's not that I dislike the leaf, but the fewer people who know where I am, the better." Hanzaki was curious to why he would ask for that, but decided against pursuing that line of conversation and said, "Thank you, and I won't tell them you were here." Naruto nodded and then left the Fuma compound. He moved more stealthily through the land of rice paddies than he normally otherwise would have, so that no sound shinobi would find him and get in his way. Since he was moving slowly, it took him a day and a half to get out of the land of rice paddies. Land of Woods. The Land of Woods did have a minor hidden village, so Naruto decided it would be best he took normal traveling routes to avoid any unnecessary attention. Naruto didn't want to deal with other ninja. While he did this, he started to think of how best to get the letter to the hidden leaf. The fastest way to get it to the leaf would be to just take it there, but that is out of the question as I could be killed on sight for being anywhere near the leaf. I wonder if Shibuki could get the letter to the leaf for me. Last I knew, the leaf and Waterfall were allies, so getting a message to the leaf is something that Shibuki should be able to do. Yeah, that will work. Then it can just play it off as the Waterfall working as the go-between and I can stay out of sight. Naruto continued to pass through the Land of Woods without incident. Land of Rice Paddies. In a large dark room, all that could be seen were two blood-red eyes with 3 black marks in each eye. Just below the eyes a burst of light came and the sound of birds chirping. The light revealed a boy in his mid-teens with black hair and wearing only a pair of purple pants with a large purple rope as a belt. This was Sasuke Uchiha, and he was currently training, trying to adapt the Chidori into new jutsu. Now in the darkness again, he pointed his hand at one of the training dummies and thought, "Chidori spear." And a spear of lightning came out of his hand and it impaled the dummy. He thought, "Perfect, this is the power I need to kill my brother. Soon I'll be able to deal with Orochimaru as well. If he thinks I came here just to hand over my body to him, he's an idiot. Soon his body will start to break down and weaken just like the last one, and once he is at his weakest, I'll kill him and go after my brother." Sasuke retracted the lightning spear and continued to think, "I'll need a team in order to deal with my brother, as his Akatsuki friends are not likely to just let me kill him. The idiot Suigetsu will be good, he is very skilled, so he will be a good to take." Sasuke decided that he was finished training for the day because he was low on chakra. He continued to think. She might be a massive pain in the ass, but Karen is a medic and possibly the best sensory ninja on the planet. She will be worth taking. If I can control Jugo like Kimimaro used to be able to, I'll take him. If I can't, I'll just kill him. As Sasuke was walking back to his room, he saw Kabuto walking towards him, and Sasuke thought, he is probably off to do one of his hideous experiments. Once they were close, Kabuto said, "So how was your training, Sasuke?" Sasuke just grunted, "HN," and continued walking in the other direction. Kabuto smirked and thought to himself, he thinks we don't know he is planning on betraying us once Orochimaru is weak, but that won't be an issue. Even at his weakest, no one can stand against Lord Orochimaru. Land of Waterfalls. Naruto entered the land of waterfalls through its eastern border. Naruto knew the approximate location of the hidden waterfall because he escorted Shibuki there on a mission back with Team 7. Naruto started heading in the general direction of the waterfall. When he felt he was getting close to the village, 4 shinobi wearing the standard uniform of the waterfall appeared in front of him. The leader said, "State your business here." Naruto replied, "I am here to see Shibuki. I have a message for him, also I have a favor to ask of him." The ninja responded, "It sounds as if you know Shibuki-sama." Naruto responded, "Yes, I was on the team from the Leaf that escorted him here a few years ago." All 4 of the ninjas were surprised when they recognized him as one of the Leaf ninjas that brought Shibuki back and that helped free the waterfall from Suin. The leader then said, "Ah yes. You have changed since you were last here. We will escort you to the village." Naruto nodded and said, "Thanks." Hidden waterfall. Once they were near the entrance of the village, one of the ninjas said, "Even though you are a friend of the village, you will still have to wear a blindfold while we enter the village." Naruto nodded and let them put a blindfold over his eyes. After a quick trip through the waterfall entrance to the village, he was told he could take it off the blindfold. When he did, he saw the village that had not changed much since he had come as a member of Team 7. The village was circular in shape with a massive tree in the center. Around the tree was a circular lake that separated it from the majority of the village. Like the hidden leaf, much of the village has covered with trees. The leader of the group of ninja said, "I trust you will not make any trouble and that you remember your way around. I have already sent a message to my commander, so no one should try and mess with you thinking you are here without permission." Naruto nodded and said, "Thanks, I will be heading to see if Shibuki is free now." With that, they all went their separate ways. As Naruto was going to the center island that contained the tree that hung over the whole village. Under that tree was where Shibuki's office was, as well as most of the government offices and buildings of the waterfall. Naruto passed through the market district of the waterfall. Naruto looked at some of the shinobi stores and thought, this would be the perfect place to get new gear. Most of my survival gear is fine, but I really should get some real ninja gear. Also, a bigger backpack would be nice. Naruto continued to walk through the town and over the bridge that led to the massive tree at the center of the village. When he got there, he walked into the building that served as the administrative hub of the hidden waterfall. When he walked in, he was greeted by a receptionist that asked, "How can I help you?" Naruto responded, "I was wondering if Shibuki was free and I would like to talk to him." The receptionist said, "Ah yes, you must be Naruto. We got a message from one of our patrol teams that you were coming. I'll see if Shibuki-sama is free." In a minute, the receptionist came back and motioned for Naruto to follow. Naruto entered Shibuki's office and sat down in a chair in front of Shibuki's desk. Shibuki then said, "So Naruto, what is it you wanted to talk about? If there is anything I can do for you, let me know." Naruto said, "Thanks, I appreciate it. I wanted to talk to you about 2 things. The first is I was wondering if you could pass this message along to the Leaf." Naruto pulled out the scroll he got from the Fuma clan and handed it to Shibuki. "Sure, I can do that, but if you don't mind me asking, what message would you be sending to the Leaf?" Shibuki asked. Naruto responded by telling Shibuki about the Fuma clan, the Sound Village, and the land of rice paddies. When he was finished, he added, "I would also like it if you don't tell the Leaf that I am involved." Shibuki nodded and said, "Sure, I'll just tell them one of my Jonin got it." "If that's it, what's the second thing you wanted to talk about?" Naruto asked, "Have you heard of a group called the Akatsuki?" Shibuki nodded and said, "Yeah, but not much. From my understanding, they are a mercenary group with very powerful members." Naruto nodded and said, "Yes, that's right, but they aren't just mercenaries. They are also hunting Jinchuriki. 2 of their members are Kisame Hoshigaki and Itachi Uchiha." Shibuki's eyes widened at this and thought, if what he says is true, that could put the village in danger if they come here to capture Fu. Shibuki then said, "That's troubling news. I suppose you are telling me this because you know we have a Jinchuriki. Do you know why they are going to do with the tailed beasts?" Naruto responded, "I don't know the specifics, but it has something to do with taking over the world." Shibuki was shocked at what Naruto told him and said, "Well, that isn't good. For now, I will have to talk with the council about this. Can you stay here in the village till this is sorted out? There is a possibility that the council will turn on Fu and kick her out, banish her, or try and give her to the Akatsuki to avoid them attacking our village. Naruto nodded and said, I can stay here if you need me to. Shibuki chuckled and said, thanks. After that, Naruto said goodbye and went to the market district to upgrade his gear. After Naruto left, Shibuki quickly wrote a letter to the Leaf with a fabricated story about how he got the Fuma clan letter. He gave both to his receptionist to send to the Leaf. Then he started to write some messages to the various council members telling them that there would have to be a council meeting the next day. Waterfall Market District. Naruto walked into the market district and started to look around. As he was walking, he thought, I need to get out of this civilian clothing and into some real ninja gear. I think I saw a good shop in their market district that has everything. Naruto found the store and started to walk through it and pick out new gear. Naruto picked out a backpack that could hold about twice as much stuff as his current one could, and it also had a few extra features that a ninja would find useful. Features like scroll pouches, quick access compartments for medical supplies or other things that need to be accessed quickly, and even a place where he could strap a sword to the pack. Naruto also stocked up on shuriken, kunai, and other ninja supplies. Naruto also picked out a tanto made out of a chakra-conductive metal. A new kunai pouch that was a bit bigger than the one he had, and it had space for a small medical kit. He also got a much larger medical kit that would be sealed in a scroll in his backpack. For clothes, Naruto got a black long-sleeve shirt, black cargo pants with pockets for scrolls, black ninja sandals, black fingerless gloves with a metal plate on the back, forearm guards that seals could be applied to, mess armor undershirt and shorts, and a gray flak jacket. Naruto got several pairs of his new outfit in case they got damaged. Naruto also got a black traveler's cloak and mask, so that it would be harder to spot him while he was traveling. Naruto brought everything he wanted to the counter and after paying put everything in a scroll and headed to a hotel to rent a room. Once Naruto got to the hotel room, he dumped out all his stuff from his backpack onto the bed. Also, he dumped all the stuff he bought on the bed as well and started to think about how to organize it all. After Naruto had organized all of his equipment, he decided to go and find a training ground to get familiar with his new equipment. Naruto started to walk through some of the training fields of the waterfall looking for one that wasn't being used. As he walked through, he was greeted by many shinobi that recognized him as the one that helped beat Suin and the rain shinobi he was working with. Naruto had to go deep into the forest to find a suitable training ground as he wanted a lot of space to create a lot of clones and be secluded enough that he could have some privacy working on a few of his jutsu that he didn't want other people to see. Naruto had decided that he wanted to keep his use of the Hiraishin and the wind-style Rasengan as secret as possible. As Naruto was getting close to giving up and just using one of the smaller training fields, and just do some sparring with some shadow clones, he spotted another clearing through the trees. At first glance, it seemed that the clearing was empty, but Naruto noticed a girl about his age sitting on a boulder near the base of a waterfall that was on the edge of the clearing. Naruto was about to turn around and go back to a small empty clearing he had passed through earlier, but then the appearance of the girl caught his eye. She was wearing an outfit made of a short sleeveless white midriff shirt with fishnet armor underneath, long white armlets, and fishnet shorts with a short white apron skirt over it. Her skin was a light caramel color, which wasn't common in the elemental nations. She had short mint green hair that was held back with an orange hair clip that matched her eyes. Naruto looked at her eyes and thought that they were beautiful. While Naruto had given up on wearing orange, as it wasn't a suitable color for a ninja, he still liked the color a lot. After Naruto took in her appearance, he thought, she fits the description that Kome gave me for Fu, and she is kind of cute. She looks lonely just like I used to be. After Naruto thought that, he realized that he actually was lonely. The only other person he had really spent time with since he was banished was with Ashina, and he wasn't even a real person. This thought made Naruto sad, but he was brought back to reality when he heard, I know someone is there, come out. The voice was coming from the mint-haired girl sitting in the clearing. Naruto came out of the trees and into the clearing, sheepishly rubbing the back of his head and wearing a foxy grin. Once he was out of the tree line and a bit into the clearing, he said, sorry, I was just looking for an empty training ground. I guess I just sat in the trees longer than I meant to. The mint-haired girl glared at him and said, well, this one isn't empty, so you can go now. Naruto decided he didn't want to leave just yet for two reasons: one, to see if the girl was Fu, and two, just to spite her. He said, why should I leave? All the other training fields are full, plus I can go wherever I want. The girl huffed and mumbled, whatever. Naruto created some clones and started a light spar to get familiar to the feel of his new gear. After Naruto had practiced for a bit, he decided to try and talk with the mint-haired girl. Naruto had noticed that she had been watching him as he worked out, so he decided to start by teasing her a little bit. He said, "Like what you see," in a playful tone. The mint-haired girl tried but couldn't help but blush and said, "No, I was just starting off into space." This wasn't a complete lie. At first she was looking at him like any girl her age would if a good-looking boy was standing in front of them. But after realizing what she was thinking about, she suppressed those thoughts as they had always led her to pain in the past, but couldn't take her eyes off the blonde-haired boy training in front of her. "Whatever you say," Naruto said, not losing the playful tone. He continued by saying, "By the way, my name is Naruto Uzumaki, what's yours?" The white-clothed girl responded with, "Why should I tell you?" Naruto replied, "What, you're going to watch me train and then not even give me your name?" The girl was silent for a second, thinking about how to respond. After not thinking of any way to get out of her situation, she sighed and looked away. Then she mumbled, "Fu, my name is Fu." Naruto thought, "So this is Fu." He then said, "You're Akunoichi, right? Want to spar?" Fu gave Naruto a suspicious look and said, "No thanks." Naruto insisted and said, "Come on. You can't tell me that you like to just sit out here and stare at a rock all day." Fu huffed and said, "What if I do?" Naruto looked skeptical and said, "Then I would say that you're lying." Fu was now getting annoyed with Naruto as she could tell that he had some motive but couldn't tell what it was. She glared at Naruto and said, "Why don't you just leave me alone?" With a slightly raised voice. "Sorry, I was just trying to be nice," Naruto replied in a defensive tone. Why are you being nice to me? I don't know what you're trying to do, but just leave me alone." Fu shouted. After that, she jumped up into the trees and ran off. Naruto followed after Fu, shouting, "Wait, can we just talk?" As Fu ran through the trees, she shouted, "No, just leave me alone." However, she wasn't paying attention to where she was going and lost her footing and fell to the ground. When she hit the ground, she sprained her ankle and couldn't walk. Quickly, Naruto jumped down from the trees near Fu. He then asked, "Are you okay?" Fu's anger and annoyance at Naruto had only been a mask for her fear of what Naruto wanted with her. She had been hurt many times by people who had been nice to her just to be mean to her later. With her ankle now sprained, she couldn't go anywhere and the mask started to fall off. Now on the verge of tears and scared as she was at the mercy of Naruto, she said, Why are you being nice to me?" Naruto then said, "Because I know what you are. I know that you're a Jinchuriki." Fu was now terrified and confused as Naruto had not approached her and his voice sounded dejected, instead angry or hateful like she was used to. Naruto then lifted up his shirt and channeled some chakra, revealing a complex sealing matrix. Naruto then said, "I am a Jinchuriki too, and I know how people like us are treated. So I was just trying to be nice." Fu didn't know how to respond. She had never met another Jinchuriki. She didn't know what to do, but without thinking, she said in a timid voice, "My ankle is sprained." Naruto gave a warm smile and walked over to Fu and knelt down. He made a simple splint and wrapped up Fu's ankle. While Naruto was working on her ankle, she was trying to get her thoughts in order. This was something she had never thought would happen. She had met someone that understood the pain of being a Jinchuriki and she didn't know how to feel about it. Part of her was happy that she had met someone that understood her, but another was scared as every time she had gotten close to someone she had been hurt. When Naruto had finished, he helped Fu get to her feet and then said, "It's getting dark, how about I walk you home?" Fu decided that it was worth the risk to see where it when spending time with Naruto. She was about to respond when her stomach rumbled and it was loud enough that Naruto could hear. Fu's face went a shade of red that could be found on Hinata quite often. Naruto then said, "Or would you like to go and get something to eat, my treat?" Fu looked down and said, "No restaurant will let me in." Naruto continued smiling and said, "Then I'll just go get some takeout for the both of us and we can eat somewhere else." Naruto then created a clone to go and get them some food while they walked to Fu's house. Fu's house wasn't much of a house, it was more of a shack, but it had electricity, water, and kept the elements out enough that she was fine. It had 2 rooms, a small bathroom, and then everything else was in a larger room. Naruto's clone got to there soon after the original and Fu did, as it wasn't slowed by Fu's sprained ankle. As they ate, they talked. The conversation was mostly driven by Naruto, with Fu mostly answering his questions. After they had finished eating, it was time for Naruto to go. Before he left, Fu asked, "How long are you going to stay in the waterfall?" She was hoping that he would stay for a long time, as she did enjoy the time they spent together despite the rough start. Naruto replied, "I'll be here for a week, but then I'll have to move on." Fu sadly replied, "Oh." Naruto, seeing that Fu was a bit sad that he couldn't stay that long, said, "If you want, we can hang out tomorrow." Fu gave a genuine smile, something she hadn't done in a long time, and said, "I would like that." Hokage's office. A week later, Tsunade came into her office. She was greeted by two things she was not expecting. Two messages, one from the Fuma clan and the other from the hidden waterfall. The message from the waterfall was not very interesting, just explaining why they were delivering a message from the Fuma clan. The Fuma clan message, on the other hand, was very interesting. They were asking for help in dealing with Orochimaru and the Hidden Sound village. "I should pass this on to Anbu since Jiraiya isn't here." After thinking for a few minutes about how she should deal with it, she heard a knock from the window. "Thinking about me?" Jiraiya said in a playful tone while sitting on the windowsill. "As a matter of fact, yes, I was." After saying that, Tsunade handed the scroll from the Fuma clan to Jiraiya. Who quickly read it, looked back at Tsunade and said, "This is an interesting development I will look into. But first there is something I need to do." "What do you need to do?" Tsunade asked. "I was remembering that Minato built a tracking seal into Kushina's seal, and I was wondering if he did the same to Naruto. There isn't a good chance of it, but it's worth looking into since at this point I am all out of leads. I will have to look through some of his sealing notes and scrolls in his house to know for sure." Tsunade nodded and said, "Good, he has been off the radar for far too long." With that, Jiraiya was off to the Namikaze estate. Namikaze estate. Jiraiya knew how to get past Minato's blood seals. Minato knew this and trusted Jiraiya only to do it in an emergency. After Jiraiya got in, he headed for the library, as that was where he also kept many of his notes. When Jiraiya got to the library, his eyes widened. There wasn't a single scroll, book, or piece of paper in the library. Jiraiya ran up to Minato's old office and found it almost as barren. There were only a few pieces of paper with unimportant things written on them. Jiraiya looked through the house, finding that almost everything that could be valuable to a ninja was gone. The equipment room was as barren as the library, but nothing had been taken from Kushina's jewelry box. It must have been Naruto. He must have somehow learned that Minato and Kushina were his parents and came here the night he left. I wonder if he took the Hiraishin scroll. Jiraiya thought as he looked through the house. Jiraiya went and opened Minato's secret hiding place for the Hiraishin scroll and found it empty. He realized that there was not much he could do, so he went back to Tsunade's office. Hokage's office. Jiraiya came in through the window. Tsunade noticed him and said, "Any luck?" Jiraiya shook his head and said, "The whole place was cleaned out. There was almost nothing left." Tsunade spun around in her chair and shouted, "What?" Jiraiya continued, "Almost anything of value to a ninja was gone, but things like jewelry were still there. Based on this, I suspect that Naruto somehow learned of his parents and took everything the night he left. He probably left in the night to avoid any questions." Tsunade was deep in thought and said, "Do you know if he took the Hiraishin scroll?" Jiraiya nodded and said, "Yes, it was gone. I'll have to hide this from the council somehow," Tsunade stated. "Well, I don't think that he did anything wrong, so you shouldn't have to tell them. Since it's his inheritance, it was his to take, so he didn't steal anything, he only took his own property. And you can take any property that's yours with you when you are banished, so we don't have to make a big deal out of this." Jiraiya stated, "Yes, you are right, but if they ever find out, there is going to be a huge mess. If he masters it and starts using it, that could be a big problem. Many will want him dead, as they could see him as a threat to the village." Tsunade said. Jiraiya replied, "Well, I am glad that I am not Hokage, because that is a shit storm I don't want to be near. Anyway, I am going to go investigate this Fuma clan thing. Then I am going to go to the land of Whirlpools. It is possible that Naruto went there to go off the grid, as it was the place his mom grew up. Very few people would think to go there, and very few people know how to get there." Tsunade nodded and Jiraiya continued. "The Akatsuki are going to start to make their move in about a year. I am going to go to all the villages that have Jinchuriki and warn them." Tsunade nodded and said, "Good luck." Waterfall Council Room. The council of the village hidden in the waterfall had been having meetings all week. The meetings were to discuss what to do about the Akatsuki. Shibuki was not happy but also unsurprised with where the meetings had gone. Most of the counselors never liked Fu or for that matter any of the other Jinchuriki that came before her. At first, the Waterfall was very happy that they were the only minor village with a Jinchuriki, but quickly they discovered that Jinchuriki weren't worth much and they needed hard and extensive training from an early age. Also, most of the time the Jinchuriki were more of a hindrance than a help. All the counselors wanted Fu out of the village because she was not worth the risk if a large group of S-class ninja were coming to take her. The differences lied in how to do it. Some wanted to hand her over to the Akatsuki. Others thought that would be a bad idea and in the end hurt the village if the Akatsuki ever ended up using the tailed beast, so they wanted to give her to another village in exchange for jutsu or other assets. Some thought it best to just banish her and be done with it. The banish side was the biggest as it would solve the problem the fastest. Shibuki didn't like any of the options and it seemed like the discussions were going nowhere, so he said, "It's getting late and we have just been going in circles all week. Let's not make a decision today, and let's end the meeting and think about our options. Tomorrow we will vote on what we will do." Everyone agreed and then got up to leave. Shibuki went to his office and called for one of his men to get Naruto and bring him to his office. He started to think, it seems likely that Fu will be banished. I don't like it, but that is the likely outcome. I'll see if Naruto can take her. Maybe he could keep her safe or at least find somewhere for her to be safe. Elsewhere in the waterfall, Naruto and Fu were sitting in the clearing where they had first met earlier that week. They had just finished sparring and Naruto was resting under a tree. Fu sat down next to him and said, "Got you this time." During their spar, Fu had beaten Naruto with her use of bugs. Naruto had not come up with a counter to her bugs, but since it took a while for Fu to get her bugs in place, it gave Naruto a quick chance at the beginning of the match to beat her. This meant that Fu mostly won long matches but Naruto won the quick ones. Naruto smirked and said, "Whatever, I got you the time before." Fu pouted and said, "Whatever." Naruto chuckled and thought about everything that he had done with Fu and all that he had learned about her over the last week. Naruto learned a lot about Fu, both her personality and her skills as a ninja. While Fu didn't talk much at first, that changed once she started to trust Naruto. After Fu decided to trust Naruto, her real personality came out. She liked to talk and could even be considered loud. Fu's real personality reminded Naruto of himself before his banishment and training in the vault, but it wasn't as extreme as he used to be. Hanging out with Fu had brought some of Naruto's old personality that had been pushed aside after he was banished. They had swapped some stories of pranks that they had both pulled. Fu mostly pulled pranks to get back at stores that had kicked her out or had been extremely cheap with her. A few days into Naruto's stay, a laundromat had lost Fu's clothes, so Naruto proposed that they teach the owner that messing with Fu was a bad idea. That night Naruto and Fu broke in and added a dye to all the detergent, so any clothes washed with it turned bright pink. They had also discovered that Fu's clothes were in a trash can in the back. The next day they could hear the commotion that they had caused all the way out in the clearing they spent most of their time in. Naruto had also taught Fu a jutsu that would clean her clothes, so she wouldn't need to depend on the laundromat to have clean clothes. They had sparred against each other several times over that week. During their spars, Naruto learned that she, like all Jinchuriki, had a lot of chakra. She mostly used bugs and water jutsu for fighting. She hadn't used her tenet's power as she couldn't use it whenever she wanted, but she, like him, had used before but didn't have any control when using it and couldn't draw on it whenever she wanted. During the week that they had spent together, they had both been happy and had been having a lot of fun. Naruto was happy, and not just because he got to make a fellow Jinchuriki feel better, as he also made a new friend. Naruto looked up at the sky and saw that it was going to be dark soon, so he said, "It's probably time to head back. Shibuki wanted to see me this evening." Fu nodded. She could tell that Naruto had to leave soon. They both walked back to Fu's house and after a hug goodbye, they split up. Fu entered her house and laid on her bed. She wanted to cry as her first friend was likely going to leave and be gone for a long time. Naruto was walking to Shibuki's office. He was sad that he was likely going to have to leave soon. He couldn't stay in the waterfall forever as the Akatsuki were coming after him and God knows who else. Naruto was sad as he was going to miss Fu. He hadn't had as much fun that week since he was banished. Naruto felt that his training at the vault was interesting and important, but it definitely wasn't fun. Shibuki's office. Naruto entered Shibuki's office and he looked up from some paperwork and said, "I'll just get to the point as we don't have much time. The council will likely banish Fu tomorrow morning. I don't like it, but there is not much that can be done about it now." Naruto had not been expecting for Fu to be banished, so he hadn't told Fu about his real reason for being in the waterfall. Naruto sighed as he realized that there was a lot that had to be done in a short time and said, "If she is going to be banished, then it would be best if she either comes with me or goes to another hidden village. I don't trust the other villages, most of them would kill her and transfer the 7 tails to someone that they knew would be loyal to them. I would like it if she could go with you, and if the Akatsuki are ever dealt with, then we can think about her coming back." Naruto nodded and said, "Okay, it would be best if I leave and meet her outside the village to avoid any unwanted questions." Shibuki nodded and said, "Yes, there is an old outpost that is not too far away, I'll make sure that she goes there. Also, I would like you to give her these." Shibuki pulled out 2 scrolls. Naruto took the scrolls and asked, "What are in these?" Shibuki answered, "One is a letter from me saying sorry I couldn't help as much as I would have liked. The other is her inheritance from her mom, which is a note and some other stuff. It was supposed to be given to her when she turned 18, but at this point, this is the best I can do. If it were up to the council, she wouldn't even get it, but what they don't know won't hurt them." Naruto nodded and said, "Then I'll be off to the outpost now." Naruto quickly left and went to the shinobi store that he had gone to earlier that week and quickly bought a second traveling cloak and mask for Fu, as it would be best for them to travel undetected. Naruto then went to his hotel room, gathered his stuff and quickly left the waterfall. Waterfall Council Room. The next day, the council meeting had just started and Shibuki said, "Unless anyone has anything more to say, then we should vote on what to do with Fu." Nobody said anything, so Shibuki started the vote. Like he thought, 7 of the 10 members voted to have Fu banished. This was enough of a majority to have Fu banished. If that is all, then Fu is hereby officially banished and she must leave within 3 hours of being informed. I am going to go to my office and start the process of banishment. Shibuki's office. Shibuki sat down and sighed. He didn't like what had happened. He knew how badly Fu was treated and didn't think it was fair. Shibuki called out for one of his men to bring Fu to his office. About 15 minutes later, a nervous Fu came into the office and sat down. Shibuki said, "The council of this village has come to the decision that you are to be banished. This scroll contains your banishment orders." Shibuki handed the scroll to a shocked Fu and continued to speak. "You will have to leave the village within 3 hours. You are dismissed." Fu, still in shock, somehow managed to get her feet under her and leave Fu's house. Once Fu got in, she opened the scroll and started to read. There wasn't much. It basically told her to get out and never come back. When she got to the end, there was something she didn't expect. "A friend is waiting for you at the outpost on the hill 3 miles south of the village." It was written at the end of the scroll with a different lettering than the rest of the scroll. Most of the writing in the scroll was done with very proper calligraphy, but the message at the end were written quickly and without care for how it looked. Fu quickly packed her things. There wasn't much beyond some survival gear, clothes, and a large red cylinder that she kept bugs in. The cylinder also had a compartment for scrolls, which is where she put all her stuff. The type of bug that she kept was a type of beetle that ate chakra and was similar to the Aburame clan's Kakaichu, but a bit more powerful. Only the Jinchuriki of the 7 tails is able to control them. They were also beefed up a bit from living off the 7 tails chakra for many generations. Outside the village, Fu knew about the outpost that Shibuki was talking about. She had been there before as a stop-off point for missions in the past, as well as a place she could escape from the village when she was younger. Naruto was waiting outside the outpost for Fu. When Fu saw Naruto, she ran up to him. When she got to him, she hugged Naruto tightly and started to cry. Naruto hugged her back and said, "What's wrong?" worried that something had happened to her. Fu continued to cry and managed to say, "Thank you. It's just so crazy. I thought I would never see you again and then I got banished. Then I see you again and I don't know what to do." Naruto smiled and said, "No problem. I couldn't just let you get kicked out and have nowhere to go. For now, how about you come with me?" Fu clung to Naruto tighter and continued sobbing into Naruto's chest. Naruto continued to hug her, trying to help her through all the emotions he was going through. After a while, she calmed down. Fu pulled away and whipped the tires from her eyes. She nodded, said, "Sorry." noticing the wet spot on Naruto's shirt where her tires had landed. Naruto smiled and said, "Don't worry, I know it can be a big shock to be banished." Fu then asked, "Where are we going to go?" Her voice was still a bit strained after crying. Naruto answered, "I have a friend I want to go and see. He is in the hidden sand village. It's going to be a long journey as we have to take the long way around through the land of earth. The first place is going to be a village in the land of grass. We should be able to get there before nightfall if we move at a good pace." Fu got out of the hug not because she wanted to but she knew they had to get moving. "We should start moving," Fu said. Naruto nodded and pulled out a black traveler's cloak and said, "You should wear this." Fu grabbed it and put it on. While tree-hopping, Fu asked, "Is there anything special about this village?" Naruto said, "No, but it's the best place to stock up for the trip. We have to take the long way around as I can't go through the land of fire and we shouldn't go through the land of rain. So we have to take the long way around through the land of earth and the land of mountains." Fu nodded and asked, "Why should we avoid the rain? It would take a while to get through the border but it still is faster than going through the mountains." "The leader of the Akatsuki operates out of the rain," Naruto replied. Fu nodded as she understood. In her banishment orders it had said why she was being banished. Fu asked, "Who is this friend we are meeting?" Naruto replied, "His name is Gaara and he is the Jinchuriki of the One Tails."
That's all for now. If you enjoy this video, then please like, share and do comments.